Chapter 1560. According to the Oracle Man, he was Duan Rufeng's son. He was not a short-lived person. Realizing that there might be some conflict between the dragons and Duan Lingtian, Duan Rufeng and Kumi immediately sped up and headed south to Cloud Continent. With their speed, it did not take long for them to arrive at Cloud Continent. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of all this. After stabilizing his cultivation base at the Paramount Saint Rudiment stage, Duan Lingtian left the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. After leaving the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he immediately went to the vicinity of the Moon Illumination sect. After lying in ambush for a few days, he finally found an opportunity to knock out a Moon Illumination sect inner court disciple who had just returned from outside. He then disguised himself as him and took his inner court disciple token before entering the Moon Illumination sect's estate without any obstruction. After entering the Moon Illumination sect's estate, he immediately went to the inner court. Soon after, he learned that Bai Li Hong had left the Moon Illumination sect with Feng Wu Dao and the rest. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Since senior brother has left with Uncle Feng and the rest, it means that they're safe. With senior brother's strength and identity as a 3-star Saint Inscription Master, let alone in the 9-Sect Alliance's district, he won't have to worry about not having a place to stay even if he leaves the 9-Sect Alliance's district. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt relieved. After confirming that Bai Li Hong and the rest were fine, Duan Lingtian went to the outer court again to secretly check on Ling Yun and Jianghu. However, unfortunately, Ling Yun and Jianghu were not there. Could something have happened? Worried that his identity would be exposed, Duan Lingtian did not investigate further and left the Moon Illumination sect's estate first. After leaving, he went to Mound Hill City. However, he did not show himself. Who knew if the Moon Illumination sect had arranged for someone to wait for him in the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City? After asking around outside Mound Hill City, Duan Lingtian realized that Fang Hui, the city governor of Mound Hill City, was fine and was not implicated at all. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then, the sect leader of the Moon Illumination sect isn't crazy. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he left Mound Hill City. After leaving Mound Hill City, Duan Lingtian's first thought was to go to Han River City. After senior brother brought Uncle Feng and the rest out of the Moon Illumination sect, I wonder if they'll settle down in Han River City? I'll try my luck there. Maybe we can find some useful information in Han River City. Having made his decision, Duan Lingtian headed towards Han River City. As the #1 city within the 9-Sect Alliance's territory, Han River City was naturally the first to receive news. Duan Lingtian had been to Han River City before, so he was familiar with the place this time. After arriving at Han River City, Duan Lingtian spent the next few days in a restaurant, listening to the discussions of martial and Dao cultivators from all over the 9-Sect Alliances. However, he was shocked to find that the news about the Moon Illumination sect did not spread out at all. Whether it was the death of a Saint Stage powerhouse in the Moon Illumination sect or the fact that Bai Li Hong had left the sect, none of them spread out. This made Duan Lingtian feel a little strange. Duan Lingtian did not know that when the few Saint Stage powerhouses from the Moon Illumination sect returned after failing to find him, the sect leader of the Moon Illumination sect, Jianghu, had urged the group of inner court and outer court elders to swear on the lightning penalty oath that they would not spread the news of what happened that day. The news of what happened that day naturally referred to the matter of Duan Lingtian killing Chen Kong and Bai Li Hong leaving the Moon Illumination sect. Both of these matters were enough to affect the foundation of the Moon Illumination sect. After all, Chen Kong was one of the few Saint Stage powerhouses in the Moon Illumination sect. Bai Li Hong was the only 3-star Saint Inscription Master in the Moon Illumination sect. If outsiders learned that Chen Kong was dead and Bai Li Hong had left the Moon Illumination sect, it would undoubtedly be a heavy blow to the Moon Illumination sect. After staying in Mound Hill City for a few days, Duan Lingtian did not manage to find out any useful information. For a moment he was at a loss. Now where should he go? To him, even the 9-Sect Alliance's district was not a safe place. For this reason, he did not plan to stay in the 9-Sect Alliance's district for long. The situation in the Dao Martial Saint Land was similar to the Cloud Continent. The closer one was to the central area, the more powerful martial and Dao cultivators there would be. The forces there were as many as the hairs on a cow. There was no lack of 6th-rate forces or forces that were above 6th rate. I'll head north first and head to the capital of Windfall Nation. Soon Duan Lingtian made up his mind. When he was still in the Moon Illumination sect, Duan Lingtian had learned about the forces around the 9-Sect Alliances. He knew that the vast land in the north of the Nine-Sect Alliance's district belonged to a sixth-rate saint nation called Windfall Nation. In the Dao Martial Saint land, apart from sects and clans, there were also saint nations among the sixth-rate forces. Of course, these so-called saint nations were also clans in the beginning. However, they were not willing to stay in one place, so they ruled the vast land around them and established their own nation. More than half of the 9 great sects in the Nine-Sect Alliance's district came from the vast land that was occupied by Windfall Nation. Because they would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix, they came to this remote and barren land in the current Nine-Sect Alliance's district and continued to build their own sect's base, continuing to live their carefree and ungoverned days. It was said that due to Windfall Nation's vast land, they did not care about the barren land in the Nine-Sect Alliance's district. For this reason, the 9 great sects lived a carefree life in this area. What separated Windfall Nation and the Nine-Sect Alliance's district was a barren desert. In this desert, apart from all kinds of powerful wild beasts, there were all kinds of harsh natural environments as well. Even with Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base, if he did not use the flying sword consolidated from his 10,000 swords territory to travel, it would take him at least 10 days to completely cross this desert. Perhaps, the reason why Windfall Nation did not occupy the land in the Nine-Sect Alliance's district is mainly because of this desert. Standing at the border of the Nine-Sect Alliance's district, Duan Lingtian, who was about to cross the desert and enter Windfall Nation's district, could not help but think to himself as he looked at the endless desert in front of him. What Duan Lingtian did not know was that when he entered the desert, his cheapskate father, Duan Ruffing, had already arrived at the 10 great dynasties in the south of Cloud Continent. After entering the Darkhan dynasty, he entered the Darkstone Empire, the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and finally the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Kumi, just wait for me here. Duan Ruffing said to Kumi indifferently as he looked down at the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city. Yes, Lord Mansion Master. In front of Duan Ruffing, Kumi was extremely respectful and did not dare to overstep his boundaries. Subsequently, Duan Ruffing entered the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city. One must admit that Duan Ruffing was very smart. He knew to return to the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city. In the Crimson Sky Kingdom's imperial city, he finally found the clue that he was looking for. Originally, Duan Lingtian had intentionally left these clues for Li Fei before he left Cloud Continent. This was because he knew that as long as Li Fei was still alive, she would definitely return. However, to his surprise, the person who obtained the clues he left behind first was his cheapskate father, Duan Ruffing. Even the voice transmission jade slip that Duan Lingtian left for Li Fei had also landed in Duan Ruffing's hands. Through the voice transmission jade slip that Duan Lingtian left behind, Duan Ruffing also found out about the ins and outs of this matter. What a good dragons. What a good Diju. Good. Very good. I'll definitely ask the dragons for an explanation for destroying my son's sect. Killing intent flashed in Duan Ruffing's eyes. However, when he found out that one of his daughters-in-law had been taken away, his heart sank again. Zoroastrianism? What's the background of that daughter-in-law of mine? Her twin sister actually calls herself a Zoroastrianism? Shouldn't Zoroastrianism people be in the upper province? Why would she come to the lower province? That's not right. Once said that my daughter-in-law Kerr grew up with Tian since childhood. How could she possibly have anything to do with Zoroastrianism in the upper province? However, it's someone who calls herself a Zoroastrianism person who took her away. Not only that, but that person even calls herself her twin sister. Not only that, but that woman who calls herself Kerr's twin sister is so powerful that she's even stronger than Diju. The moment Duan Ruffing thought about this, his heart felt a little heavy. Although he did not take Diju seriously, he still knew a little about how powerful Diju was. After all, Diju was one of the only 2 5-clawed golden dragons in the upper province. Although he had yet to fully mature, his strength was still extraordinary. If that woman was really Kerr's twin sister, then her actual age would only be slightly over 30 years old. Slightly over 30 years old, but her strength was far more powerful than Diju. She's so young, but she already possesses such monstrous strength. It seems like she's not lying. She's most likely a Zoroastrianism person. Only the outstanding young talents from the top first-rate forces in the upper province would possess such monstrous strength at such a young age. The moment Duan Ruffing thought about this, he could not help but gasp. Even he had only heard of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. He had never come into contact with anyone from the upper province. Since ancient times, the Dao Martial Saint land is divided into the 3 religions and 9 sects. The 9 sects refer to the forces in the Tao martial saint land from the first rate to the 9th rate. The 3 religions refer to the 3 top first-rate forces with the longest inheritance in the Tao martial saint land. They're also the 3 most mysterious and powerful sections. Zoroastrianism is one of them. Ever since the Tao martial saint land was divided into 2, the 3 great sects and the other powerful forces that rose to power entered the upper province. For so many years, nobody in the lower province mentioned the 3 great sects. Chapter 1561. In fact, Duan Lingtian had given it a lot of thought before he decided to cross the vast desert and head to the capital of Windfall Nation. When he was still in the Moon Illumination sect, he had heard his senior brother, Bai Lihong, mention Windfall Nation many times. Based on Bai Lihong's words, it seemed like he was looking forward to going to Windfall Nation. He had even said that if it was not for the Moon Illumination sect, he would have gone to Windfall Nation long ago. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian felt Bai Lihong might have brought Feng Wu Dao and the others to Windfall Nation. Not only that, but this feeling was very strong as well. What Duan Lingtian did not expect was when he was crossing the desert and heading to Windfall Nation, his cheapskate father would leave Cloud Continent not long after he obtained the clue he left behind in the Crimson Sky Kingdom on Cloud Continent. Let's go to the Moon Illumination sect. Duan Rufeng and Kumi came and went like the wind. From the time they arrived on Cloud Continent to the time they left, it only took them a day. Of course, they didn't even spend 1/10 of the day on the road. This was because the clue Duan Lingtian left behind mentioned that he had brought Feng Wu Dao and the others to the Moon Illumination sect. He also introduced the Moon Illumination sect as a 7th-rate sect in the Tao martial saint land. At the same time, he also mentioned the general location of the Moon Illumination sect. Due to this reason, Duan Rufeng brought Kumi back to the Tao martial saint land and arrived at the Moon Illumination sect immediately. Duan Rufeng stood with his hands behind his back in the sky above the Moon Illumination sect. He had a calm expression on his face, and one could not tell if he was happy or angry. However, if one looked into his eyes, one could see the anticipation in the depth of his eyes. He was looking forward to seeing his son again. Who's the sect leader of Moon Illumination sect? Kumi took a step forward. His voice was like thunder that reverberated in the air. In just a blink of an eye, it spread through the entire Moon Illumination sect. The entire Moon Illumination sect was shocked. The voice came from the sky. There's a flight prohibiting formation in the sky above our Moon Illumination sect's estate. The owner of the voice must be a saint stage powerhouse. The group of elders and disciples in the Moon Illumination sect immediately realized the problem. All of them had a shocked expression on their faces. Why did a saint stage powerhouse come to the Moon Illumination sect? Moreover, based on his words, it seemed like he wanted to see the sect leader of the Moon Illumination sect. At the same time, the forbidden area of the Moon Illumination sect was in an uproar. Where did this Saint Realm expert come from? Jianghu, the sect leader of Moon Illumination sect, and the other saint stage powerhouses of Moon Illumination sect were gathered together. They looked at each other, not knowing who had arrived. However, since the visitor was looking for Jianghu, it was impossible for Jianghu to avoid meeting him. After all, he was a saint stage expert. Although they did not know how strong the saint stage powerhouse was, the other saint stage powerhouses from the Moon Illumination sect followed Jianghu and soared into the sky to meet the person in the sky above the Moon Illumination sect. Soon Jianghu and the others saw a skinny old man. The old man's entire body was shrouded in gray robes. He held a walking stick in his hand and stood there, imperceptibly exerting a great pressure on them. As Saint Realm experts, they immediately realized that this old man's strength was far above theirs. At this moment, a hint of dread appeared in Jianghu and the others' eyes. However, when they saw the middle-aged man standing at a higher spot not far behind the skinny old man, horror dawned on them. The middle-aged man stood with his hands on his back. His entire body exuded an otherworldly aura. At first glance he looked like an ordinary person. However, based on the position he was standing at and the aura of a superior being that was faintly emitting from his body, it was enough to show that his strength was most likely above the skinny old man. The skinny old man was obviously his underling. He was his lackey. Who are the two lords? Jianghu and the others had come in a menacing manner. However, when they realized the two men were not to be trifled with, they lowered their heads in unison and behaved humbly. Although they were saint stage powerhouses, they knew they were at the bottom of the saint stage powerhouses. Naturally, they did not dare to be careless when they encountered a more powerful saint stage powerhouse. Who's the sect leader of Moon Illumination sect? Not only did Kumi ignore Jianghu and the others, but he even repeated his question. His tone was filled with impatience. Jianghu and the others did not dare to flare up when Kumi ignored them. Jianghu immediately replied, "Lord, I'm Jianghu, the sect leader of Moon Illumination Sect. May I know why you've come to my Moon Illumination Sect, Lord?" Jianghui's voice was filled with anxiety. The skinny old man in front of him gave him too much pressure. The feeling of being stared at by the skinny old man was like being stared at by a venomous snake. Moreover, it was a venomous snake that he did not have the confidence to fight against. "Is there a person called Duan Ling Tian in your Moon Illumination Sect?" Kumi asked in a deep voice. The moment his words left his mouth, he quickly glanced at Jianghu and the others' faces. He did not miss the changes on their faces at all. When they heard Kumi mentioning Duan Ling Tian, horror dawned on Jianghu and the others immediately. However, they forced their expressions back to normal in just a blink of an eye. However, in their hearts, a wave of shock had been set off. This mysterious and powerful person was actually here to look for Duan Ling Tian? Was Duan Ling Tian not from the mortal continent? Why would such a powerful person come to look for him? At this moment, a sense of uneasiness rose in Jianghu and the others' hearts. "Sect leader, did you notice that the middle-aged man seems to have a 60 to 70% resemblance to Duan Ling Tian?" At this moment, one of the Moon Illumination Sect's supreme elders secretly glanced at Duan Ruffing and transmitted his voice to Jianghu. At this moment his voice seemed to tremble a little. Upon hearing that, Jianghu also secretly studied Duan Ruffing. He did not pay much attention to Duan Ruffing's appearance earlier, but now that he had taken a closer look, he was shocked to discover that the middle-aged man did indeed look similar to Duan Ling Tian. The expression between their brows in particular seemed like they were made from the same mold. "Oh no." Jianghui's heart skipped a beat as a hint of panic flashed across his eyes. At this moment, Jianghu also realized that the relationship between Duan Ling Tian and the two men in front of him was not as simple as it seemed. Without any hesitation, Jianghu immediately transmitted his voice to the other few Moon Illumination Sect's supreme elders. "Senior uncles, junior uncles. Let's speak in unison and say that we don't know any Duan Ling Tian, nor did we know there was such a person in the Moon Illumination Sect." Upon hearing that, the few Moon Illumination Sect's supreme elders responded one after another. At this moment, they also realized that Duan Ling Tian's background was not as simple as they had imagined. At this moment they even regretted pursuing Duan Ling Tian. If they did not pursue Duan Ling Tian, there would not be any conflict between them and Duan Ling Tian. No matter how powerful Duan Ling Tian's background was, he would not make things difficult for them. However, at this moment, everything was no longer up to them. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to think of a way to get rid of the two men in front of them. After getting rid of the two men, they would look for a way to salvage the situation. Otherwise, if the two men in front of them learned about what had happened to Duan Ling Tian in their Moon Illumination Sect, they did not doubt that they would destroy the Moon Illumination Sect. "Lord, although I'm the sect leader of Moon Illumination Sect, I've never heard of a person called Duan Ling Tian in the Moon Illumination Sect." Jianghu looked at Kumi and pretended to be calm as he spoke. "You've never heard of him?" Upon hearing Jianghui's words, Kumi's eyes gleamed coldly. "Yes, I've never heard of him." Jianghu replied affirmatively. "If he hasn't heard of him, what about all of you?" Kumi's gaze landed on the few Moon Illumination Sect's supreme elders behind Jianghu. At the same time, a devilish grin appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Lord, I've never heard of him as well. Lord, I've never heard of him as well." At once, the few Moon Illumination Sect's supreme elders shook their heads one after another, indicating that they had never heard of Duan Ling Tian. "Jenner is not here?" At this moment, Duan Ruffing frowned as well. Earlier, he had already searched the entire Moon Illumination Sect's estate with his powerful divine consciousness, but he did not find any trace of Duan Ling Tian at all. "Have you really never heard of him, or are you unwilling to tell us?" Kumi asked with a faint smile as he looked at Jianghu and the others. Upon hearing Kumi's words, Jianghu and the others narrowed their eyes. They realized that the powerhouse in front of them might have noticed something. However, they still pretended to be calm and indicated that they had never heard of Duan Ling Tian before. "Lord Mansion Master, they don't seem to be very cooperative." If Kumi was alone, he would not have been able to restrain himself from using his own method to find out everything. However, since Duan Ruffing was here, he did not dare to act recklessly. "Kumi, since when did you have to report such a small matter to me?" Duan Ruffing said nonchalantly. He could not help but feel a little anxious when he did not find any trace of his son, Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, he could sense the uneasiness in Jianghu and the others as well. It was obvious they were pretending not to know his son, Duan Lingtian. Lord Mansion Master? When Jianghu and the others heard how Kumi addressed Duan Ruffing, horror dawned on their faces. Mansion Master was not a title that could be used by just anyone. There were many forces in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, only those fifth-rate forces or above dared to call themselves a mansion and control a mansion. The title of Mansion Master was usually reserved for the leaders of fifth-rate forces or above. The leaders of fifth-rate forces or above. Thinking up to this point, Jianghu and the others felt their vision darken, and they even felt as if the sky had darkened. However, they calmed down one after another when they heard Jianghu's voice transmission. Perhaps he's trying to scare us. These were Jianghu's exact words. Upon hearing Jianghu's voice transmission, the other few Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders calmed down immediately. They also felt it was impossible for a leader of a fifth-rate force or above to appear in their Moon Illumination sect. Their Moon Illumination sect was merely a seventh-rate force. Chapter 1562. Moreover, just by looking at the middle-aged man's appearance, one could tell he had a close relationship with Duan Lingtian. There was a high chance they were related by blood. If Duan Lingtian really had such a relationship with the leader of a fifth-rate force or above, how could he possibly appear in the Moon Illumination sect? The moment Jianghu, the sect leader of Moon Illumination sect, and the few supreme elders of Moon Illumination sect thought to themselves. However, in the next moment, horror dawned on their faces. This was because they were shocked to discover that the skinny old man's cane had suddenly appeared. As the skinny old man struck the ground with his walking stick, the area within 100 meters instantly turned dark, as if night had fallen. At the same time, withered tree branches shot out from the void as though they had been given life. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The speed of the withered tree branches was so fast that Jianghu and the others could not react in time. In just a blink of an eye, Jianghu and the others were bound by the flexible withered tree branches. *T. My true origin has been sealed. Just as Jianghu was about to struggle, his expression changed drastically. This was because he was shocked to discover that the withered tree branches that bound him actually possessed a sealing energy that suppressed the true origin in his body, causing him to be unable to mobilize the true origin in his body. My true origin has been sealed as well. Oh my God! What kind of territory is this? At the same time, the few supreme elders of Moon Illumination sect cried out in horror. Their voices were filled with panic and fear. Even they could not remember when was the last time they were so terrified. At the same time, when Jianghu and the others looked at Kumi again, their eyes were filled with terror. Although they knew this skinny old man was not to be trifled with, they did not expect that they would be like 3-year-old children in front of an adult. They were completely powerless in front of this skinny old man. Just by consolidating his territory, he was able to bind them and control their life and death. Lord, I've really never heard of Duan Lingtian before. Jianghu said in a trembling voice. Lord, we're really not lying. If you don't believe us, you can ask the other people in our Moon Illumination sect. One of the supreme elders of Moon Illumination sect said. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Upon hearing the words of the Moon Illumination sect's supreme elder, Kumi replied in a hoarse voice. At the same time, his gaze locked onto Jianghu. To be more precise, his gaze locked onto Jianghu's eyes. Look at me. After locking his gaze on Jianghu's eyes, Kumi suddenly shouted in a low voice. His voice seemed to have condensed into a sound line that pierced into Jianghu's ears. Jianghu was so shocked that he subconsciously looked at Kumi and met his eyes. It was at this moment that Kumi's eyes began to shine with a crimson light. At the same time, 2 crimson rays shot out from Kumi's eyes and pierced into Jianghu's eyes. In the blink of an eye, Jianghu's eyes, which had been lively at the beginning, became dull and lifeless. Upon seeing this, the other few Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders were stunned. Then, as though they had just seen a ghost, they shouted, Soul Search! It's the soul-searching technique. Soul-searching secret technique. Impossible. Impossible. How could an expert who has mastered the soul-searching secret technique appear here? The few supreme elders of the Moon Illumination sect muttered under their breaths as they watched the scene before their eyes in disbelief. However, the scene that was deeply reflected in their eyes seemed to tell them that nothing was impossible. No matter what, the few Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders were saint-stage powerhouses. They had a certain understanding of the legendary soul-searching secret technique. They knew those who mastered the soul-searching secret technique were all-powerful. Not only did these people mainly cultivate spiritual energy and divine consciousness, but their cultivation base was also unfathomable. At the very least, even in the sixth-rate sects, clans and sixth-rate saint nations, there was no one who possessed such a cultivation base. At this moment, their hearts almost stopped beating. At this moment, they could not help but recall how the powerhouse who had cast the soul-searching secret technique addressed the middle-aged man. Lord Mansion Master. Mansion Master. Don't tell me this middle-aged man who looks similar to Duanling Tian is really the leader of a fifth-rate force or above. That must be it. Only the leader of a fifth-rate force or above would be able to command a powerhouse who has mastered the soul-searching secret technique. The moment the few Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders thought of this, despair rose in their hearts. They knew that in front of the soul-searching secret technique, Jianghu had no secrets to speak of. Everything Jianghu knew, the other party would know as well. After a while, the crimson ray that shot out from Kumi's eyes gradually dimmed. At the same time, he also stopped casting the soul-searching secret technique. However, his eyes had become exceptionally ice-cold. After Kumi stopped casting the soul-searching secret technique, Jianghu, the sect leader of Moon Illumination sect, had also recovered. He was also confused when he regained his senses. When he saw Kumi staring at him coldly, he said again, "Lord, I've really never heard of Duanling Tian in our Moon Illumination sect." Upon hearing his words, the few Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders had a bitter expression on their faces. "Sect leader, it's useless for you to say anything now. This lord has already cast the soul-searching secret technique on you earlier." One of the Moon Illumination sect's supreme elders said bitterly. Upon hearing this, horror dawned on Jianghu's face. A soul-searching secret technique? Naturally, he knew what the soul-searching secret technique was. At the same time, he also knew a powerhouse who could cast the soul-searching secret technique was extremely terrifying. Moreover, there was no powerhouse at that level even in sixth-rate forces. Even a sixth-rate force without a powerhouse at that level could easily annihilate a seventh-rate sect like the Moon Illumination sect. At once, despair rose in Jianghu's heart. Lord Mansion Master. At this moment, Kumi also told Duan Ruffing everything he had learned from Jianghu using the soul-searching secret technique. This included Duan Lingtian's past in the Moon Illumination sect and everything that happened after that. He killed Lu Huan, the Paramount Saint Rudiment Stage Inner Court Elder of the Moon Illumination sect. He killed Chen Kong, the Saint Stage Supreme Elder of the Moon Illumination sect, with just a sword strike. Subsequently, he even managed to escape from the hands of a few Saint Stage powerhouses. Kumi also told Duanling Tian about the extraordinariness of the sword in Duan Rufing's hand. During this process, Jianghu and the others also heard Kumi addressing Duanling Tian as Young Mansion Master. At once, they learned about the relationship between Duanling Tian and the middle-aged man whom the skinny old man addressed as Lord Mansion Master. As it turned out, Duanling Tian was his son. At this moment, only despair was left in their hearts. It did not cross their minds that Duanling Tian would be the son of a leader of a fifth-rate force or above. Just like the oracle man said, "My son is really a person with great fortune." That sword allowed him to display such an attack at the Saint Rudiment stage. I'm afraid it's even more powerful than the 10 Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint weapons ranking. Upon hearing Kumi's words and learning that Duanling Tian was safe, Duan Ruffing sighed in relief. Lord Mansion Master, Kumi glanced at Jianghu and the others indifferently before he respectfully asked for instructions from Duan Ruffing. "You can deal with them as you deem fit." Duan Ruffing replied indifferently before he added, "Let's go to the dragons." The moment his words left his mouth, Duan Ruffing vanished into thin air. It was as though he had vanished into thin air before Jianghu and the others' eyes. His speed was so fast that Jianghu and the others shuddered in fear. However, when they saw Kumi glaring at them menacingly, horror dawned on them as they cried out in horror, "Lord, please spare our lives. Please spare our lives. We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended the Young Mansion Master. Lord, please spare our lives for the sake of not harming the Young Mansion Master. Lord, we're willing to help look for the Young Mansion Master." When Jianghu and the others sensed the killing intent emitting from Kumi, they began to beg for mercy. At this moment, the so-called dignity of a Saint Stage powerhouse was completely thrown to the back of their minds. To them, nothing was important in the face of their lives. Being alive was the only thing that mattered. If a person died, there would be nothing left. This was especially true for Saint Stage powerhouses like them. Only they knew how difficult it was to get to where they were now. They were really unwilling to die just like that. Noisy. The instant Kumi spoke coldly, he did not seem to have made any movement. However, the dead branches that grew out of thin air within a 100-meter radius seemed to have transformed into pythons as they swept toward Jianghu and the others. In just a few moments, Jianghu and the others were crushed into minced meat. They could not be any more dead. At the same time, Kumi also followed Duan roughing. After Kumi left, the sky within a 100-meter radius that seemed to have fallen into darkness finally regained its light. The countless dead branches in the dark night disappeared as well. Jianghu, the sect leader of Moon Illumination Sect, and the few remaining supreme elders of Moon Illumination Sect had also completely disappeared from this world. Naturally, the people from Moon Illumination Sect did not notice this at the moment. After some time, the people from the Moon Illumination Sect discovered that their sect leader, Jianghu, and a few other supreme elders had disappeared into thin air. They had disappeared without a trace. Without the support of the Saint Stage powerhouses, it was only natural that the Moon Illumination Sect began to decline. It was no longer as glorious as before. Naturally, all of this was a story for later. At the border of the vast desert to the south of Windfall Nation, a travel-worn figure had also arrived today. This is Windfall Nation? The person who arrived was none other than Duan Lingtian, who had crossed the vast desert from the 9-sect alliance's district to Windfall Nation. Duan Lingtian stood in the sky above the Windfall Nation's border and looked ahead. All he could see was an oasis. It was like a completely different world from the desert behind him. Let's continue forward and ask someone for directions to the capital of Windfall Nation. Chapter 1563. However, Duan Lingtian still felt a certain amount of exhaustion from traversing the vast desert without rest and sleep throughout the journey. It was not physical exhaustion but mental exhaustion. Before asking for directions, Duan Lingtian found a place to rest. After resting for a night, he continued his journey towards the north the next morning. Finally, after traveling north at full speed for an hour, he saw an inconspicuous little village. Smoke rose from the chimney as he looked from afar. A small village like this that was situated on the vast grassland was like a perfect painting when reflected in Duan Lingtian's eyes. Duan Lingtian stepped on the air and landed when he was close to the little village. Before he entered the village, Duan Lingtian saw two figures darting out and blocking his path. Who are you? The people who blocked Duan Lingtian's path were two middle-aged men who looked strong. They looked at Duan Lingtian, the uninvited guest, warily. There's no need to be nervous. I'm just a passerby who wants to ask for directions. Duan Lingtian forced a smile as he spoke. At the same time, he secretly activated his divine eye and probed the cultivation base of the two middle-aged men. They were martial cultivators at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian was shocked that there were martial cultivators at the paramount mortal shedding stage in such a small village. In fact, in the Dao martial saint land, ordinary 9th-rate forces would only have martial cultivators at the paramount mortal shedding stage at most. However, Duan Lingtian also noticed that the heaven and earth spirit energy had become much richer as he approached the village. It was obvious there was a saint stone reserve buried under the village. With Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base, he could easily sense that it was a 9th-grade saint stone reserve. As expected of Windfall Nation, even a small village at the border is comparable to a 9th-rate force. Duan Lingtian exclaimed inwardly. When the two middle-aged men heard Duan Lingtian's words, their expressions softened a lot. However, they still asked cautiously, "Where are you going?" "The capital." Duan Lingtian replied. "The capital?" The two middle-aged men were shocked when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. One had to know that not just any martial cultivator or Dao cultivator would dare to go to the capital through them. They were at the border of Windfall Nation. It was a long distance from here to the capital. Without a certain level of strength, one would not dare to go to the capital alone. After all, who knew how many bandits would try to kill him along the way? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and asked with a smile, "Can you show me the way?" For the two middle-aged men, this was as easy as lifting their hands. After a short while, they both pointed in the same direction, which was the northeast direction. "Thank both of you." Duan Lingtian thanked them with a smile and was about to leave. At this moment, the sound of wind whistling could be heard from afar. It was so ferocious that Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned. Naturally, the two middle-aged men did not hear the sound when Duan Lingtian heard it. Duan Lingtian looked in the direction of the sound and saw a group of people walking toward them. At first glance, there were at least several dozens of people. These several dozens of people were led by a middle-aged man who stood on a wild beast. The middle-aged man had a curly beard as he stood on the wild beast that looked like a gigantic lion. He looked majestic. The leader is at the intermediate Saint Rudiment stage. That wild beast is at the early Saint Rudiment stage. As for the remaining several dozens of people, the weakest one is at the intermediate Saint Rudiment stage. They seem to be here for this village. Who are they? After activating his divine eye, Duanling Tian immediately probed the group's cultivation base. These people were nothing in his eyes. Due to this reason he did not choose to avoid them. Moreover, it was obvious these people were here for the village in front of him. If he was just passing by he might not have bothered. However, no matter what, he still owed the two villagers a favor. It would be inappropriate for him to leave at this moment. At the same time, Duanling Tian also noticed the two middle-aged men's faces turned solemn. Ah, Chui village is old and young, aren't you going to come out and welcome us? As the middle-aged man with curly beard who was the leader laughed, the group of people he brought with him stood in the sky outside the village. They looked like dark clouds that covered a large area of land outside the village. Duanling Tian, who thought these bandits were here to massacre the village, was stunned when he saw the scene in front of him. Based on the middle-aged man with curly beard's tone, he seemed to be acquainted with the people in this village. They're a bandit group from the southern border of Windfall Nation. They're comparable to an 8th-rate force. Every once in a while, they'll come to our village to collect a large amount of saint stones as protection fees. As though one of the middle-aged men could see Duanling Tian's confusion, he smiled wryly and transmitted his voice to Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian finally understood. If that was the case, there was no need for him to interfere. Even if this village was comparable to a 9th-rate force, since it was located in Windfall Nation, it would be easy for it to be destroyed if it did not have a backer. Perhaps, with the protection of a bandit group that was comparable to an 8th-rate force, it might be able to survive longer. This was the law of survival. At the same time, Duanling Tian also saw another group of people flying out of the village. The person in the lead was an old man dressed in green. The old man looked helpless, but he still forced a smile on his face. Third Chief, this is our Chui village's protection fee this year. The old man put on a humble expression in front of the curly-bearded middle-aged man. At the same time he took out a spatial ring and tossed it to him. The curly-bearded middle-aged man reached out to catch it. After confirming it, he grinned. The number is correct. Old man Chui, see you next year. After the curly-bearded middle-aged man finished speaking, he turned the head of the wild beast under his feet around and prepared to leave with his people. Just when Duanling Tian and the group of Chui village's people were about to watch the curly-bearded middle-aged man leave with his people, Duanling Tian noticed that one of the two old men following closely behind the curly-bearded middle-aged man suddenly shifted his gaze to him. In the next moment, he saw the old man looking at the curly-bearded middle-aged man. At once, Duanling Tian faintly sensed that something was amiss, and he could not help but frown. At this moment, the curly-bearded middle-aged man also turned the head of the wild beast under his feet around again. His gaze instantly landed on Duanling Tian. You're not from Chui village? The curly-bearded middle-aged man stared at Duanling Tian as he asked in a deep voice. At the same time, whether it was the group of bandits behind the curly-bearded middle-aged man or the group of people from Chui village, all of their gazes landed on Duanling Tian. The village head of Chui village, the old man in green, even frowned. Duanling Tian was just about to say that he was indeed not from Chui village, but he was interrupted as soon as he opened his mouth. Third Master, this is also from our Chui village, but he rarely shows himself. After the village head of Chui village learned from the two middle-aged men that Duanling Tian was just a passerby asking for directions, he was also compassionate and spoke to the curly-bearded middle-aged man in a timely manner. At this moment, Duanling Tian also heard the voice of the village head of Chui village. Young man, they're not to be trifled with. Just pretend that you're from Chui village. Hearing the village head's words, although Duanling Tian was not afraid of these bandits, he still felt warm in his heart. At the same time, he shut his mouth and did not refute the village head's words. After all, the village head had good intentions. Old man Chui, do you really think that I, Third Master Deng, am blind? How can your Chui village produce such a young man with such temperament? The curly-bearded middle-aged man sneered. Hearing the curly-bearded middle-aged man's words, the village head of Chui village was speechless. At the same time he could not help but look sideways at Duanling Tian seriously. However, he discovered that Duanling Tian had an extraordinary temperament. At first glance, he could tell that he did not come from a small village. Old man Chui, I can pretend that I didn't hear what you said just now. Now I want to hear you say it again. Is he from Chui village or not? Let me remind you, you better think carefully before you speak. You should know the consequences of lying in front of me. The curly-bearded middle-aged man continued to sneer. For a moment, cold sweat broke out on the forehead of the village head of Chui village. He could only cast a guilty look at Duan Lingtian. At this point, naturally he did not dare to stand up for Duan Lingtian anymore. Duan Lingtian smiled at the village head of Chui village knowingly. Then, he looked at the curly-bearded middle-aged man and said indifferently, "You have a good eye. I'm indeed not from Chui village. I'm just passing by Chui village and happened to ask for directions." I knew it. How could there be someone with such temperament in Chui village? The curly-bearded middle-aged man had an as-expected expression on his face. At the same time, he glanced at Duan Lingtian indifferently and said, "I, Third Master Deng, am in a good mood today. I don't want to see blood. Hand over your spatial ring and scram." In a good mood? You don't want to see blood? Upon hearing the curly-bearded middle-aged man's words, Duan Lingtian smiled instead. "Judging from your tone, it seems like you've got me." After he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian flew away without waiting for the curly-bearded middle-aged man's response. Naturally, his speed was not fast. He maintained his speed at the early Saint Rudiment stage. However, even with such a speed, Duan Lingtian had already flown far away while the curly-bearded middle-aged man and the group of bandits behind him were still in a daze. The direction Duan Lingtian was heading toward the northeast, the direction where the capital of Windfall Nation was located. You don't know how to appreciate favors. The curly-bearded middle-aged man finally regained his senses. His expression turned grave immediately as killing intent surged in his eyes. He immediately urged the wild beast under his feet to chase after Duan Lingtian. The group of bandits also followed after him in a mighty manner. That young man's in trouble. When the group of people from Chui village saw this, they sighed. They could tell the young man's speed was not fast. At the very least, he did not have any advantage in front of the curly-bearded middle-aged man. He's still too young and impetuous. So what if he hands over his spatial ring? Don't tell me that worldly possessions are more important than his life? Chapter 1564. When third brother Deng turned around to chase after Duan Lingtian, he originally planned to leave his wild beast and chase after him alone. After all, the wild beast under his feet was only at the early Saint Rudiment stage. Its speed was only on par with Duan Lingtian, so it would be difficult for him to catch up with Duan Lingtian. As an intermediate Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator, it was easy for him to catch up with an early Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator. It was apparent that Duan Lingtian's speed made him realize that Duan Lingtian was only an early Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator. Soon, third brother Deng gave up on the idea of chasing after him. This was because he noticed the young man had stopped after flying for a distance. He even turned around as though he was waiting for him and the group of people behind him to catch up with him. At this moment, uneasiness rose in his heart. At this moment, he even had the thought of turning around and running away. However, when he thought about how many of his underlings were watching from behind, he gritted his teeth and chased after him. He's just an early Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator. I'll just kill him. In this remote place, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. Even if he has an extraordinary background, who would know that I, third brother Deng, killed him? The moment third brother Deng thought of this, he made up his mind. Soon, third brother Deng led the group of bandits to surround Duan Lingtian. What? Have you thought it through? Are you willing to leave your spatial ring behind? Third brother Deng sneered at Duan Lingtian. I'll give you one more chance. Leave your spatial ring behind and I'll spare your life. Upon hearing third brother Deng's words, the two old men who were following behind him were surprised. In fact, this was not the first time they had encountered such a situation. However, each time, as long as the target had the thought of escaping, their third chief would immediately chase after the target and kill him. However, this time their third chief actually gave this young man a second chance. They could not help but be surprised. Maybe the third chief thinks he can be spared the death penalty since he stopped on his own accord. The two old men exchanged glances and saw the same thought in each other's eyes. However, how would they know? Third brother Deng began to feel a sense of dread toward this young man in front of him. What if I don't give it to you? From the beginning to the end, Duan Lingtian looked calm as though he would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Third's face changed when he heard Duan Lingtian. Brat, you're courting death. Third chief, kill him. Kill him. At this moment, third brother Deng's several dozen bandits with him. Third, as to kill Duan Lingtian shouted too. If it were not for the fact that third brother Deng had not given the order, they would have dashed forward and torn the ungrateful young man into pieces. Kill him, kill him. At this moment, third brother Deng had no way to back down after hearing the wishes of his subordinates. Thus he yelled and gave the order. Kill kills too. At that instant, apart from third brother Deng, the wild beast under his feet, and the two old men behind him, the other bandits made their moves one after another. They charged toward Duan Lingtian as though they were going to tear Duan Lingtian into pieces. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian, who was besieged, had a disdainful smile on his face. Seeing the several dozen bandits closing in on him, the void within a 100-meter radius around Duan Lingtian began to tremble. Then, in the void within a 100-meter radius, streaks of sword light appeared out of thin air. Each of the streaks of sword light looked like a real sword. At first glance, there were more than 10,000 swords. Territory. At this moment, third brother Deng and the two old men behind him reacted immediately. Horror dawned on them when they realized they had kicked an iron plate this time. What a joke. Only experts who had mastered the true energy condensed domain were able to use the domain. Powerhouses who mastered the true energy consolidated territory technique were all at the paramount Saint Rudiment stage or above. Let alone them, even their great chief was only a perfection Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator. There was still a long way to go before he reached the paramount Saint Rudiment stage. Even the great chief would have to act humble in front of a paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse. However, they were actually chasing after a paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse? At the same time, horror dawned on third brother Deng and the two old men. Among the 10,000 sword rays in the sky, several dozens of them seemed to have transformed into meteors as they streaked across the sky. Each sword ray took away a bandit's life. The strongest among these bandits was only at the early Saint Rudiment stage. In Duan Lingtian's 10,000 sword territory, they were like fish on a chopping board. In just a blink of an eye, apart from third brother Deng, the wild beast under his feet, and the two old men behind him, the rest of the bandits were killed by the sword rays. Their bodies fell from the sky like rain and turned into a pile of minced meat. At this moment, third brother Deng finally regained his senses. Lord, I, third brother Deng, have eyes but fail to recognize Mount Tai. I, third brother Deng, have eyes but fail to recognize Mount Tai. After realizing what had happened, Deng Laosan, whose face had turned extremely pale, started to slap himself again and again, making himself look like a pig's head. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind. He hoped that the powerhouse in front of him would spare his life. In front of the powerhouse, he could not muster up any will to resist at all since he knew it was useless. Naturally, he was also complaining in the depth of his heart. He was complaining that Duan Lingtian, a paramount Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator, had pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. He had purposely displayed the speed of an early Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse in front of them. Was he not digging a hole for them to jump into? If Duan Lingtian had displayed the speed of a paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse when he left earlier, they would not even dare to let out a fart, let alone chase after him. Naturally, they would not be able to catch up to him even if they wanted to. Lord, please spare my life. Lord, please spare my life. The two old men behind third brother Deng, on the other hand, immediately kneeled in midair. They lowered their heads and begged Duan Lingtian for mercy. Their voices were trembling from fear. At this moment, their mentality was no different from third brother Deng's. Even the wild beast under third brother Deng's feet could instinctively sense how terrifying Duan Lingtian was even though it did not have much intelligence. It began to become restless. If I'm really just an early Saint Rudiment stage martial cultivator, and I'm not willing to hand over my spatial ring, do you think I'll still be alive? Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly in the face of the three men's begging. In fact, even if Duan Lingtian did not ask, he would have gotten the answer anyway. Due to this reason, before third brother Deng and the other two men could speak, Duan Lingtian commanded the sword chi in the 10,000 sword territory to shoot out again, killing third brother Deng and the other two men and the wild beast. None of them were left alive. When Duan Lingtian left Chui village, he realized third brother Deng and the others did not intend to massacre the village. However, he did not intend to intervene. The Chui village had to hand over the protection fee because it was their way of survival. Duan Lingtian did not want to destroy it. However, even though he did not want to intervene, third brother Deng and the others had their eyes on him. At that moment he did not intend to hold back at all. However, in order not to implicate the Chui village, he purposely lured third brother Deng and the others away from the Chui village. He only made his move when he arrived here. I'm getting more and more familiar with the 10,000 sword territory. Under Duan Lingtian's control, the area within a radius of 100 meters with him as the center turned into an ocean of swords. The 10,000 swords flew in the air, creating a spectacular scene. In the end, after collecting the spatial rings of the group of bandits, Duan Lingtian also gathered the 10,000 swords and transformed them into a flying sword under his feet. The flying sword carried him toward the northeast direction at an even faster speed, heading toward the distant capital of Windfall Nation. While Duan Lingtian was making his way, a sorrowful cry resonated in a mountain range not far from the Chui village. Third brother? A white-haired old man with a sturdy build looked at the shattered soul pearl in front of him with bloodshot eyes. A chilling aura spread out from his body. Big brother, what happened? Soon after, a middle-aged man dressed like a scholar appeared. When he saw the shattered soul pearl, horror dawned on him. This is third brother's soul pearl? No matter who it is, I'll find him and avenge third brother. The old man's eyes were red, and his voice was filled with hatred and coldness. I'll go and investigate right away. The middle-aged scholar's expression was extremely grave. Although the three of them were not blood-related brothers, their relationship was even closer than blood-related brothers. Since Duan Lingtian did not purposely destroy the corpses, the bandits quickly discovered the corpses of third brother Hu and the others. Not only that, but they also brought the corpses back to their lair. Big brother, I've asked the people in the villages around the place where third brother died. According to the time, third brother died when he was chasing after a young man. The middle-aged scholar was not only the second in command of the bandits, but he was also the strategist and think tank of the bandits. Soon after, he managed to find out something. I've asked the people in the Chui village. That young man had asked them for directions and said he wanted to go to the capital. The capital? When the old man heard the middle-aged scholar's words, he gritted his teeth and said, "Then I'll kill him in the capital." Big brother, you're planning to go to the capital? The middle-aged scholar frowned. Big brother, judging from the wounds on our brothers, several dozen of them died at the same time. I'm afraid that young man's true strength is not inferior to yours. I've also observed the place where third brother died, and I didn't find any other traces. I suspect he cast his territory and is a paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse. For third brother's sake, I must go to the capital. When I left that year, the Fourth Imperial Highness made a promise to me that I can ask him for help in the future. As long as it's within his ability, he won't refuse. Even if he's an ordinary Saint stage powerhouse, let alone a paramount Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse, he'll still die as long as the Fourth Imperial Highness gives the order. The old man's eyes were red as though he had lost his mind. Second brother, go look for the people in the Chui village again and ask them to describe that person's appearance and draw a portrait. As long as the portrait is drawn, I'll head to the capital immediately. Big brother, I thank you on behalf of third brother. Chapter 1565. In Windfall Nation, those who were addressed as highnesses were undoubtedly the princes of the Windfall Nation's emperor. As a sixth-rate saint nation, the Windfall Nation's foundation was extremely strong. It was not something a seventh-rate sect like the Moon Illumination sect could compare to. There were only a few saint stage powerhouses in the Moon Illumination sect. Moreover, they were the weakest type of saint stage powerhouses. In a top sixth-rate force like the Windfall Nation's imperial family, there were at least several dozens of saint stage powerhouses. There was no lack of powerful saint stage powerhouses among them. The reason why Duan Lingtian did not destroy the corpses of the bandits was because he thought it was unnecessary. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, the group of bandits was only from a bandit gang that was comparable to an eighth-rate force. A mere eighth-rate force was nothing to him. Due to this reason, he did not bother to destroy the corpses. However, it did not cross Duan Lingtian's mind that the great leader of an eighth-rate force's bandit gang would be related to the imperial family of a sixth-rate saint nation like the Windfall Nation's imperial family. If he could figure it out, he would not have saved the trouble. Everyone would make mistakes in their life. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, had inadvertently made the mistake of underestimating his enemy. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of this. He was still on his way to the Windfall Nation's capital. With my speed, I should be able to reach the Windfall Nation's capital tomorrow. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he hurried on his flying sword. Almost at the same time, the old man who was the great leader of the bandit gang that Duan Lingtian killed had also obtained Duan Lingtian's portrait and was prepared to head to the Windfall Nation's capital. If Duan Lingtian saw this portrait, he would definitely be shocked since he looked 90% similar to him. Those who had seen the portrait would be able to recognize him immediately if they saw him again. Big brother, the promise that the Fourth Imperial Highness made to you is something that you've spent most of your life on. Are you really going to use it on third brother? After a few days, the middle-aged scholar who was the second in command had calmed down a lot. Before the old man left, he could not help but ask, "Second brother, don't say such things in the future. I don't like it." The old man said in a deep voice, "Big brother, if third brother were to know of this in the underworld, he would definitely be very happy." The middle-aged scholar said, "So what if you're happy? Death is like an extinguished lamp. Anyway, it's time for me to leave." As soon as the old man finished speaking, he left, looking at the old man's receding figure until the old man's figure completely disappeared in front of him. The middle-aged scholar came back to his senses and muttered, "Big brother, if the person who died this time was me, would you also use the promise the fourth prince made to you?" As he thought about it, the middle-aged scholar's gaze became somewhat absent-minded. In the capital of Windfall Nation. Even though Duan Ling Tian had seen the magnificence of the nine-sect alliance's Han River City, he was still shocked by the capital of Windfall Nation. Originally, in his opinion, the biggest city on Cloud Continent was like a small village compared to Han River City. However, after arriving at the capital of Windfall Nation, Duan Ling Tian had a deeper understanding of the saying, "There's always a taller mountain in every flash." Compared to the capital of Windfall Nation, Han River City was just like a rural town. Whether it was its appearance or the size of the land, it was not worth mentioning at all. When he arrived at the capital of Windfall Nation, Duan Ling Tian kept a low profile as he walked in. Naturally, this was also because he had no choice but to keep a low profile. When he was close to the capital of Windfall Nation, he noticed that there was also a flight-prohibiting formation in the capital. The feeling he got from this flight-prohibiting formation was similar to the one in Moon Illumination Sect. The only difference was that it covered a wider area and was more difficult to set up. When he arrived at the capital of Windfall Nation, the first thing Duan Ling Tian did was to look for a restaurant and enter. Whether it was on Cloud Continent or the Dao Marshal Saint Land, the most lively and well-informed places were undoubtedly the restaurants. He did not come to the capital of Windfall Nation blindly. He had his reasons for coming here. Firstly, he wanted to see if Bai Li Hong had brought Feng Wu Dao and the others to Windfall Nation. Secondly, he wanted to see if he could find out more about Xuanai's background in Windfall Nation. Xuanai is really something. Why didn't she tell me the name of the force behind her? Now that I want to look for her, I don't know where to start. Duan Ling Tian sighed. The clues that Xuanai left behind for him were a pile of 5th-grade Saint Stones, 4th-grade Saint Stones, and her surname Han. The reason Duan Ling Tian wanted to find out about the force Han Xuanai was not because he wanted to look for someone to rely on. However, he could faintly sense that the force behind Han Xuanai was not simple. His purpose was to find his fiancée, Li Fei. Based on my initial estimation, the force behind Xuanai should be a 5th-rate force. It's very likely to be a 5th-rate clan. After combining everything that he knew, Duan Ling Tian speculated inwardly, Han clan, Han clan. I'll focus on finding out more about this when I come to the capital of Windfall Nation. As time went by, the dishes and wine that Duan Ling Tian ordered were served. At the same time, the number of people in the restaurant increased. When there were more people, it was only natural that it would be lively. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian had also heard a lot of gossip. However, it was all about some good-for-nothing rich kid from some clan in Windfall Nation's capital. However, during this process, Duan Ling Tian was secretly shocked. This was because he heard from the customers around him that even some of the clans in Windfall Nation's capital had a strength that was comparable to a 7th-rate force. These clans would more or less have a few Saint-stage powerhouses in charge. Just one of the clans in Windfall Nation's capital has a strength that's not inferior to the Moon Illumination Sect. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian realized that his horizons had been broadened. In the past, he had stayed in the Moon Illumination Sect in the 9-sect alliances district. Although the Moon Illumination Sect was not the most powerful, it was still a force that could be considered as one of the top forces. However, the moment he arrived at the capital of Windfall Nation, he realized that the Moon Illumination Sect was nothing compared to this place. Just based on the clans that he had heard about, there were 3 forces that were not inferior to the Moon Illumination Sect. In the Windfall Nation's district, apart from the capital, it was obvious that there were many 6th-rate forces as well. With such a comparison, Duan Ling Tian suddenly felt that the 9-sect alliance's district was too small. At the same time, he felt that he had made the right choice by coming here. Have you heard? The great young master of Situ clan's condition is getting worse and worse recently. I heard that he won't make it past this month. Suddenly, A middle-aged man sitting at a table near Duan Tian said to another middle-aged man at the same table. He tried his best to lower his voice as though he was worried that someone would hear him. If Duan Tian did not open up the saint veins that connected his ears, he would not be able to hear his voice even if he had a cultivation base at the paramount saint rudiment stage. However, Duan Tian could hear him clearly now. Situ clan. Duan Tian's heart jolted. He had learned about the Situ clan from the other customers' discussion earlier. The Situ clan was a big clan that could be considered as one of the top clans in the Windfall Nation's capital. Not only that, but it was also closely related to the Windfall Nation's imperial family. It was said that the younger sister of the current clan leader of Situ clan was one of the imperial concubines of the current Windfall Nation's emperor. Situ clan's great young master? The one who was rumored to be possessed? The other middle-aged man asked in a low voice. That's right, it's him. The former nodded. Speaking of which, he's really unlucky. Not long after His Majesty bestowed him with a saint weapon inscribed with a 4-star saint inscription, he was possessed. In my opinion, he's not blessed enough to enjoy His Majesty's reward. It's really strange. There are so many saint refinement masters in the imperial family who are good at refining medicine, but none of them managed to find out what happened to him. The latter chimed in. I heard that those saint refinement masters in the imperial family who are good at refining medicine have checked his body and concluded that there's nothing wrong with his body. The former added. It must be God punishing him. However, I heard that the Situ clan's great young master is a good person. He doesn't seem like an ordinary good-for-nothing rich kid. Why would he be punished by God? As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but scourges live for thousands of years. What a pity. I heard that the clan leader of Situ clan issued a reward some time ago. Anyone who can cure the Situ clan's great young master will be rewarded with a 4-star Divine Strider talisman and a 4-star Golden Energy talisman. Even if he takes out a 4-star Offensive Dao talisman, I'm afraid nobody can cure the Situ clan's great young master. That's right. Put everything else aside, after the Situ clan's great young master was bewitched, a black mark that resembled a spider appeared between his brows. Until now, nobody knows what it is. The conversation between the two middle-aged men entered into Duan Tian's ears word by word. A black mark that resembled a spider? Upon hearing their conversation, Duan Tian raised an eyebrow. Some information appeared in his mind. It was the information in the saint token that contained the inheritance of the strange inscription art that his senior brother Bai Lihong had given him. Could it be the devil inscription? Duan Tian was shocked. The devil inscription was also a type of saint inscription. It was also an extremely obscure existence. In the Dao martial saint land, only devil cultivators and saint inscription masters could master the devil inscription. However, the price to pay was extremely high. Moreover, it was extremely obscure. It was so obscure that only a few people in the Dao martial saint land knew about its existence. Moreover, the requirement to inscribe the devil inscription was extremely high as well. Most importantly, the devil inscription was different from ordinary saint inscriptions. If it was classified as a saint inscription, it would be considered an unorthodox saint inscription. It was a saint inscription that harmed people. I heard from the others that the great young master of Situ clan encountered this incident because he was rewarded with a saint weapon by the Windfall Nation's emperor. Moreover, it's a saint weapon that's inscribed with a 4-star saint inscription. Don't tell me the Windfall Nation's emperor wants to kill him? The moment Duan Tian thought of this, he shook his head secretly. He felt that it was impossible. Chapter 1566. Of course, although Duan Tian thought so, he was not sure. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, even father and son could turn against each other, let alone a nephew. However, the clan leader of Situ clan is really generous. A 4-star Divine Strider talisman and a 4-star Golden Energy talisman. Even I can't help but feel tempted. Indeed, Duan Tian was very tempted. A 3-star Divine Strider talisman would allow the user to possess the speed of a Paramount Saint Rudiment Stage Cultivator for a quarter of an hour. The 3-star Golden Energy talisman allowed its user to possess the defense of a Paramount Saint Rudiment Stage Powerhouse for a quarter of an hour. The 4-star Godly Strider talisman and the 4-star Golden Energy talisman, once used, would undoubtedly give one the speed and defense of a Saint Realm expert. Although Duan Tian's current strength was strong, he still had to use the Jasper Celestial Sword to kill the weakest type of Saint Stage expert. Moreover, the price he had to pay was also very high. It could be said that he had to sacrifice 800 of his own men to kill 1,000 of his enemies. As for speed, even if he displayed the fastest speed with the flying sword formed by the myriad sword territory, he would only be able to catch up to a Saint stage expert. Compared to a Saint stage expert, he was still inferior. I've just arrived at the capital of Windfall Nation, and I'm unfamiliar with the people and the place. Perhaps, this is an opportunity for me to establish myself in the capital of Windfall Nation temporarily. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian was even more tempted. He had just arrived at the Windfall Nation's capital. Whether it was to look for Bai Li Hong or to inquire about the force behind Han Xuanai, he would undoubtedly need connections. However, the current him had no connections at all. The matter of the Situ clan's eldest young master being possessed gave Duan Lingtian an opportunity. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was 80% certain that the great young master of Situ clan was indeed affected by the devil inscription. That was why he was bewitched. The jade slip that recorded this strange inscription art also had a description of the demonic inscriptions. At the same time, there was also a method to break it. Moreover, according to the two middle-aged men, the devil inscription on the Situ clan's eldest young master did not seem to be anything special. However, even if it was not a very impressive demon inscription, if one did not know how to crack it, even a 9-star saint inscription master would not be able to crack it. A black mark in the shape of a spider. Could it be the Yin spider devil mark? Duan Lingtian muttered. In the jade slip that recorded the strange inscription technique, there was also an introduction to some common devil inscriptions and a way to crack them. It just so happened that there were records of the shadow spider devil pattern. It was a type of 1-star devil pattern and belonged to the most superficial type of devil pattern. Of course, if it was not for the fact that Duan Lingtian had mastered the strange inscription art, he would not have carefully read the information behind the jade token and would not have known about the existence of the devil inscription. Duan Lingtian was sure that although Bai Li Hong had seen the information in the jade slip, he definitely hadn't found any demonic patterns. That was because the information about mageways wasn't very eye-catching in the jade slip. If one couldn't grasp the basic strange pattern technique recorded in the information at the beginning, most people wouldn't read the pile of complicated information at the back because they would feel that it was a waste of time. If it was not for the fact that Duan Lingtian had mastered the strange inscription art, he was certain he would have missed the records about the devil inscription at the back. I'll go to the Situ clan to have a look. However, if I can confirm that it's really the Windfall Nation's emperor who wants to kill the great young master of Situ clan, it's better for me not to get involved in this mess. I've just arrived at the capital of Windfall Nation, and I haven't even done what I'm supposed to do. It's not a good thing if I offend the Windfall Nation's emperor. After casually eating some dishes and wine, Duan Lingtian walked out of the restaurant after paying the bill. He began to plan in his heart. After asking around about the Situ clan's location, Duan Lingtian made his way to the Situ clan. As one of the few big clans in the capital of Windfall Nation that was only second to the imperial family, the Situ clan's mansion was extremely grand. It occupied a vast area and was not much smaller than the Moon Illumination sect's estate. In fact, the Moon Illumination sect's estate was located in the wilderness. On the other hand, the Situ clan's mansion was located in the capital of Windfall Nation where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Due to the fact that the 6th grade Saint Stone vein owned by the Windfall Nation's imperial family was located under the Imperial Palace in the capital of Windfall Nation, the cultivation environment in the capital was very good. Coupled with the 7th grade Saint Stone vein under the Situ clan's mansion, the cultivation environment in the Situ clan was far better than the cultivation environment in the Moon Illumination sect. At the entrance of the Situ clan, after a group of Situ clan's guards learned about the purpose of Duan Lingtian's visit, one of them immediately went in to report. Soon after, an old man appeared. The Situ clan's guard who had gone in to report was standing behind him. The old man had an ordinary appearance, but there was a shrewd gleam in his eyes. With just a glance, one could tell he was not a simple person. Are you confident? The moment the old man came out, he did not say anything. He just stared at Duan Lingtian's eyes as though he wanted to see if Duan Lingtian was confident or not. Upon hearing the old man's words, Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged. His gaze did not change as well. He only said indifferently, "Instead of asking me if I'm confident or not, why don't you bring me in to see your great young master? Shouldn't all of you be treating a dead horse as if it's still alive?" The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, the old man's face turned grave. "Are you comparing my young master to a horse?" The group of Situ clan's guards immediately glared at Duan Lingtian with hostility. It was as though they would attack Duan Lingtian as soon as the old man gave the order. It seems like the Situ clan isn't that anxious. Forget it, just pretend I didn't come here. Duan Lingtian shook his head and turned around to leave. However, the moment Duan Lingtian turned around, the old man blocked his path and said coldly, "Do you think you can just let this slide after insulting my young master? Do you really think there's no one in the Situ clan?" Scram. Duan Lingtian frowned as he slowly spat out a word. Just when Duan Lingtian thought the old man would lose his temper and attack him, an unexpected scene occurred. Please. Not only did the old man not lose his temper, but he even stepped aside and respectfully invited Duan Lingtian into the Situ clan's estate. Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned when he saw this. Could it be that the people from the Situ clan were born to be cheap? Why couldn't they not use force? "Mister, I apologize for my rudeness earlier. I just wanted to confirm if you're really capable. After all, my young master's condition is not good now, and he can't afford to be hurt anymore." The old man seemed to have noticed Duan Lingtian's confusion. His eyes dimmed as he sighed. "Now, are you sure I'm really capable?" Duan Lingtian looked at the old man with a faint smile on his face. "Just based on your confidence earlier, it's worth it for me to invite you in. Just as you said, we can only treat our young master's condition as if it's a dead horse." The old man added, "Lead the way." Upon hearing the old man's words, Duan Lingtian was amused inwardly. However, he no longer put on a straight face. As the saying went, one does not slap a smiling person. Since the old man was so sincere, he would not leave just like that. Moreover, if he wanted to gain a foothold in the capital of Windfall Nation, the Situ clan was indeed his best choice. After entering the Situ clan, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw the scenery. As expected of a great clan in the capital of Windfall Nation, the decoration of the front courtyard was indeed refreshing. At the very least, the decorations of the other mansions that Duan Lingtian had been to were not as good as the Situ clan's. On the way, Duan Lingtian learned about the old man's identity. The old man was the Situ clan's outer mansion supervisor. Although the old man brought him into the Situ clan, Duan Lingtian could tell the old man did not have much hope that he would be able to cure the great young master of Situ clan. He was just going through the motions. As for the scene outside the mansion earlier, based on Duan Lingtian's speculation, it must be a test set by the Situ clan. There was no need for someone who was not confident to come in. This was the Situ clan's attitude. Under the old man's lead, Duan Lingtian passed through the Situ clan's front courtyard and walked through a long corridor. In the end, he stopped in front of a wide door at the end of the corridor. In front of the door, both Duan Lingtian and the old man were stopped. As expected of a great clan in Windfall Nation, the security is really tight. Duan Lingtian clicked his tongue in his heart. After all, no matter what, the person who brought him in was still the manager of the outer court, yet he was actually mercilessly stopped just like that. "This mister is here to treat the great young master. Send someone to bring this mister to see Supervisor Fu." At this moment, the old man handed Duan Lingtian to the Situ clan's disciple who was guarding the door of the inner mansion. Then he said to Duan Lingtian, "Mister, you'll arrive at our Situ clan's inner mansion after you pass through this door. They'll send someone to bring you to see Supervisor Fu, the inner mansion's supervisor. Supervisor Fu will bring you to see the great young master." Duan Lingtian nodded and entered the inner mansion under the lead of a Situ clan's disciple. After entering the inner mansion, Duan Lingtian opened his eyes again. The layout of the inner mansion was even more magnificent than the front courtyard of the Situ clan's mansion and the entire outer mansion. Just one look at it would make one feel relaxed and happy. Soon after, Duan Lingtian saw the inner mansion's supervisor, Supervisor Fu, whom the outer mansion's supervisor had mentioned. She was a beautiful woman who looked to be in her 30s or 40s. Although she was not as beautiful as his two fiancées, her voluptuous figure was seductive, causing one to be unconsciously attracted to her. After learning about Duan Lingtian's intention, the beautiful woman took a few more glances at Duan Lingtian before she frowned subtly. Although in the Tao Martial Saint Land, it was not enough to determine a person's age just by looking at their appearance. A young and handsome man like Duan Lingtian still gave people the impression that he was too young and immature to handle matters. Naturally, Duan Lingtian noticed the beautiful woman's reaction. He could guess what she was thinking, but he was not bothered by it. He merely nodded and smiled at her. "Follow me," the beautiful woman said indifferently. After saying that, the beautiful woman led the way in front of him. Her voluptuous figure caused Duan Lingtian, who was following behind her, to take a few more glances at her. It was not that Duan Lingtian was lustful, but this was a man's nature. "What star saint inscription master are you?" the beautiful woman asked indifferently along the way. "I'm not a saint inscription master." Duan Lingtian shook his head in response. Chapter 1567. Don't tell me your Situ clan has a rule that only saint refinement masters can come here? If that's the case, I'll leave immediately. Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly with a nonchalant expression on his face when he saw the beautiful woman whose expression had turned slightly gloomy. Upon hearing this, the beautiful woman's expression eased up a little. Then she looked at Duan Lingtian deeply but did not say anything else. She continued to lead the way. Although she did not know where this young man's confidence came from, she did not ask him to leave. Since he was already here, she would naturally give it a try. It would be a dereliction of her duty if she chased him away. Under the beautiful woman's lead, Duan Lingtian soon arrived at a spacious courtyard in the Situ clan's inner mansion. "I'll pass on the message." The beautiful woman greeted Duan Lingtian and walked into the courtyard without waiting for Duan Lingtian's response. Duan Lingtian stood quietly at the entrance with a gleam in his eyes. This Situ clan's inner mansion supervisor is not simple. Her cultivation base is at the paramount Saint Rudiment stage, and the feeling she gives me is no different from the vice sect leader of Moon Illumination sect. She must be an imminent saint stage powerhouse. If it was before, he would have been afraid when he found out the beautiful woman was an imminent saint stage powerhouse. However, he did not feel anything at all now. With his current strength, even if he did not use the Jasper Celestial Sword, it would be difficult for him to find a match below the saint stage. Soon, the beautiful woman came out again, and with her was an old man. The old man was dressed in a neat white robe. Coupled with his white hair, he looked otherworldly and elegant. Every step he took was so natural in Duan Lingtian's eyes. Not only that, but it also gave Duan Lingtian a certain amount of pressure. Saint stage powerhouse. When Duan Lingtian saw how humble the beautiful woman was in front of the old man, coupled with the pressure the old man gave him, it was not difficult for him to guess the old man's strength. He could not help but feel shocked. This seemed to be the place where the great young master of Situ clan lived, right? How could there be a Saint Realm expert? A seventh-rate clan like the Situ clan only had a few Saint Realm experts at most. Unexpectedly, one had appeared here. It was no wonder that Duan Lingtian was not surprised. "This is Elder Ho." The beautiful woman followed the old man out and said to Duan Lingtian, "Elder Ho." Duan Lingtian nodded at the old man as a greeting. "Elder Ho is the Grand Supreme Elder of the Situ clan. Please show some respect." Right at this moment, before the old man could respond, the beautiful woman sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian to remind him. Her tone was mixed with a trace of displeasure. "Manager Fu, aren't you overstepping your boundaries? I came to your Situ clan because you have something to ask of me. Even if this Elder Ho is the supreme elder of your Situ clan, so what? Don't tell me you want me to bow and scrape?" Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at the beautiful woman as he spoke without the slightest scruple. "You." It was apparent the beautiful woman did not expect Duan Lingtian would say such a thing. Moreover, he did not use voice transmission but said it out loud. Her expression changed immediately as a cold gleam appeared in her eyes. "What? Did I say something wrong?" Duan Lingtian sneered. From the moment Duan Lingtian entered the Situ clan, he had already made up his mind. If he wanted to gain a foothold in Windfall Nation through the Situ clan, he had to maintain his dominance so that he would be valued. With his current strength and backing, he was indeed qualified to display his dominance in a clan like the Situ clan. At the same time, Duan Lingtian no longer looked at the beautiful woman. Instead, he looked at the old man in front of him. At this moment, Duan Lingtian noticed an indescribable smile on the old man's face. For some reason, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel wary when he saw the smile. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion sounded in the air. Duan Lingtian only felt a gust of strong wind blowing toward him. It was so strong that it seemed as though it was howling in the air. Along with the strong wind, there were also bursts of fragrance. Duan Lingtian was no stranger to this fragrance. It came from the inner mansion's manager, Manager Fu. She was the beautiful woman who was originally following behind the old man. Manager Fu's sudden attack was out of Duan Lingtian's expectation. However, Duan Lingtian was not a pushover. In the face of Manager Fu's sudden attack, his right arm suddenly shook as he unleashed all of his brute strength. Coupled with the true energy that surged into his fist through his 99 saint veins, he punched out at lightning speed to meet Manager Fu's palm that had made a preemptive strike. The palm came out of nowhere as though it had transformed into a gigantic fan that was about to send Duan Lingtian flying. The iron fist struck after the enemy had made a move. It was awe-inspiring as it fearlessly met the beautiful woman's palm. At this moment, the fist and palm collided. Bang! Another thunderous explosion sounded. This time, Duan Lingtian and Manager Fu had exchanged blows. In this exchange, they did not use any Saint-grade martial tactic moves, true energy consolidated weapon, true energy consolidated beast, true energy consolidated territory, or any other external force such as Saint weapons. It was purely a competition of true energy. Naturally, Duan Lingtian did not only rely on his true energy. After Duan Lingtian had broken through to the Paramount Saint Rudiment stage, his body had transformed again. The energy contained in it had become even more terrifying. Naturally, since Duan Lingtian had just broken through to the Paramount Saint Rudiment stage, he did not have an advantage in terms of true energy. Although he had 99 Saint veins to channel his true energy, he had made a move after the enemy had made a move. Before he made his move, Manager Fu had already gathered all of her true energy in her palm and attacked him like a storm. She did not hold back at all. Due to this reason, he did not have an advantage in terms of Saint veins. Accompanied by a wave of air that swept out from where the two of them collided, Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged. He stood in the same spot without moving at all, like a statue that was as immovable as a mountain. On the other hand, Manager Fu, who had a confident expression on her face earlier, had her confidence disintegrated in just a blink of an eye. In the next instant, she was sent flying for a few meters before she managed to stabilize herself in a wretched manner. This was only because Duan Lingtian had stopped in time. Otherwise, Manager Fu would have been in an even more wretched state. Can I go in now? After defeating Manager Fu, Duan Lingtian did not even look at her. Instead, he looked at the white-robed old man who had been standing nearby from the beginning until the end. He was Situ Ho, the supreme elder of Situ clan. He did not need to guess to know the old man had asked Manager Fu to make a move. Otherwise, even Manager Fu would not have dared to act recklessly in front of the old man. Of course. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Situ Ho nodded. It was as though he did not realize he had been exposed at all. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian instantly strode into the courtyard before him. At the same time, Situ Ho followed behind him. At the same time, he glanced at Manager Fu, whose face was slightly pale. There's nothing for you to do here. Yes. Manager Fu replied respectfully. However, before she left, she could not help but turn to look at Duan Lingtian's back. A hint of dread and disbelief flashed in her eyes. I'm sure he's not a Saint stage powerhouse. However, his strength is obviously far above mine. Don't tell me he's a heaven-ranking powerhouse? The moment Manager Fu thought of this, her eyes shone brightly. The heaven ranking was a ranking list with a higher status in the Dao Martial Saint land. Usually, only fifth-rate forces would be able to create a ranking list. In other words, the heaven ranking would usually have an entire mansion under its control. To be more precise, it would have all the powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage in a mansion. There were a total of 100 people in the heaven ranking. All of them were powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage. They were only a step away from the Saint stage. It was said that the weakest person in the heaven ranking had the strength to fight 3 ordinary imminent Saint stage powerhouses if they joined forces. If Duan Lingtian knew about the existence of the heaven ranking, he would definitely be shocked. This was because it was quite similar to the 9 Sect Alliance's Earth ranking. However, the Earth ranking was for powerhouses at the peak of the mortal shedding stage, while the Heaven ranking was for powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage. In fact, the Earth ranking was an imitation of the Heaven ranking. In the Dao Martial Saint land, there were countless districts like the 9 Sect Alliances. Although there were many fifth-rate forces in the Dao Martial Saint land as well, there were only a few dozen of them. Even if every fifth-rate force had a Heaven ranking, there were only a few dozen of them in the Dao Martial Saint land. Based on this, one could see how valuable the Heaven ranking was. Powerhouses who could be listed in the Heaven ranking were all outstanding powerhouses at the Saint Rudiment stage. Due to this reason, Manager Fu's attitude had completely changed when she guessed Duan Lingtian was a powerhouse in the Heaven ranking. At this moment, when she thought of that almost perfect handsome face, for some unknown reason, Manager Fu's cheeks actually flushed slightly. It was as if she had the shyness of a young girl who was in love at this moment. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of the change in Manager Fu's attitude. Naturally, he was not interested in finding out. At this moment, he was walking into the room where the great young master of Situ clan was staying with Situ Ho, the supreme elder of Situ clan. It was a simple and plain room. It was hard to imagine this was the room of the next clan leader of Situ clan. Just this alone made Duan Lingtian have a good impression of the great young master of Situ clan. At the same time, Duan Lingtian also saw the great young master of Situ clan, Situ Hang, who was lying on the bed. Situ Hang had a handsome but firm face. However, his face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. The black spider mark between his eyebrows made him look even scarier and more frightening. When Duan Lingtian and Situ Ho entered, he struggled to sit up. One could see he was very weak. He was so weak that he looked like an ordinary person without any cultivation base. Grandfather Ho. He greeted Situ Ho before he shifted his gaze to Duan Lingtian. His pale lips moved as he asked, This is the mister who came to see you. Situ Ho seemed to have a good relationship with Situ Hang. When he spoke, the kindness in his eyes could not be concealed. I've already given up. Why do you still have to? Situ Hang sighed. Don't give up so easily before it's too late. Situ Ho said solemnly. All right. Chapter 1568. To a certain extent, Duan Lingtian was influenced by Situ Hang's optimism as well. In fact, when he saw the black spider mark between Situ Hang's brows, he was 90% certain it was the shadow spider devil tattoo. Naturally, he did not dare to be 100% certain before he probed with his spiritual energy. Relax. Duan Lingtian said to Situ Hang. His voice was so soft that it was as though he was bathing in the spring breeze. As soon as Situ Hang's expression eased, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy had already swept out and entered the space between Situ Hang's brows. To be more precise, it entered the black spider mark between Situ Hang's brows. Ah! When Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy entered Situ Hang's brows, Situ Hang shrieked and collapsed. What are you doing? When Situ Ho saw this, he could no longer maintain his composure. His expression changed slightly as he glared at Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian ignored him. However, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was a confident smile. Situ Ho naturally saw Duan Lingtian's smile, causing his heart to skip a beat. Don't tell me he has a solution? Ever since Duan Lingtian appeared in front of him, how he easily suppressed the Situ clan's inner mansion steward, and how he revealed such an attitude after observing Situ Hang's condition. Situ Ho could not see through Duan Lingtian at all. He felt that although this young man was not a saint stage powerhouse, he was even more mysterious than a saint stage powerhouse. Do you have a solution? Situ Ho asked solemnly after taking a deep breath. However, Duan Lingtian still ignored Situ Ho. Instead, he walked to the side of the bed and extended his right hand before he pressed his thumb on the black spider mark between Situ Hang's brows. In the next moment, one could see the black spider mark between Situ Hang's brows fading a little. Although it was only a little fading, Situ Ho, who was watching this attentively, could still see it clearly. At this moment, there was no need for Duan Lingtian to answer. He had already gotten the answer he wanted. A smile appeared on his face again. It was a sincere smile. When Duan Lingtian took a step back, Situ Hang regained his senses. His pale face had turned slightly better. What happened just now? Why do I feel so much better? Situ Hang asked in a daze. After a short moment, he seemed to have thought of something as he stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian. Is it you? Who else could it be? Could it be Elder Ho? Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew what Situ Hang was asking about. He smiled faintly and said, I think I know what happened to you. It's not difficult to remove the devil inscription on you, but I'll need to prepare some materials. With your Situ clans, Duan Lingtian Ling He Duan Lingtian Zes, Duan Lingtian He's Situ material Lingtian Lingtian Zes. Although he did not know what the devil pattern was, he could vaguely guess that it had something to do with his body. More importantly, judging from the words of the purple-robed young man, it seemed like the purple-robed young man could help him recover? At this moment, Situ Hang felt as though he had just ascended from hell to heaven. After all, he was in so much pain and suffering that he had almost given up all hope. However, he did not expect to see a ray of hope when the few grade 4 saint refinement masters in the palace who were experts in medicine refinement said he would not live to see the next month. The light of hope instantly swept away the haze in his heart. If he could live, who would want to die? Moreover, he would die for no reason. What's the devil inscription? At this moment, Situ Ho, who was standing by the side, asked curiously. The devil inscription is also a type of saint inscription. However, it's different from ordinary saint inscriptions. It's a saint inscription that harms people. It's also a one-time use saint inscription. It's similar to a saint inscription, Duan Ling Tian said bluntly. There's such a saint inscription? Situ Ho was shocked. This is my first time hearing about it. However, how did little Hang get afflicted with the devil inscription? Situ Ho asked in confusion. Since the devil inscription is a saint inscription, it's also inscribed. It's usually hidden in a saint weapon and can merge perfectly with an ordinary saint inscription, but it's difficult to detect. Once it's in contact with a saint weapon that's inscribed with the devil inscription for a certain period of time, the energy of the devil inscription will completely attach itself to the person who touches the saint weapon. Duan Ling Tian explained. He had learned all this from the jade token that recorded the strange inscription art. However, the jade token only mentioned some devil inscriptions and the method to neutralize them, but it did not mention the method to inscribe them. Moreover, according to the jade token, there were many devil inscriptions, and the ones recorded were the more common and superficial ones. As a 2-star devil inscription, the sinister spider devil inscription was, naturally, one of the more common and superficial ones. Saint weapon? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Situ Ho and Situ Hang could not help but look at each other in disbelief. I heard young Master Situ became like this because he received the saint weapon from the emperor? Duan Ling Tian asked bluntly after a moment of silence. Situ Ho fell silent. It's impossible for it to be my uncle. Situ Hang shook his head and said with certainty. The uncle he was referring to was, naturally, the current emperor of Windfall Nation. Can you show me the saint weapon? Duan Ling Tian asked Situ Hang. Although Duan Ling Tian had not completely healed him, it was a fact that he had recovered a lot. For this reason, Situ Hang had already regarded Duan Ling Tian as a life-saving straw. Naturally, he was very cooperative with Duan Ling Tian's request. This is it. Situ Hang lifted his hand and took out a 7-foot-long spear before passing it to Duan Ling Tian. The moment the spear entered his hand, Duan Ling Tian could feel how extraordinary it was. To be more precise, he could feel how extraordinary the material it was made of was. The moment he touched it, it was cold and piercing to the bone. In the next instant, Duan Ling Tian shifted his gaze to the spear and saw the 3 saint inscriptions inscribed on it. He could recognize the 3 saint inscriptions. They were 3 3-star saint inscriptions. As far as he knew, there should be a 4-star saint inscription on Situ Hang's spear. Since it was not on the spear, it must be on the tip of the spear. As expected, Duan Ling Tian discovered the 4-star saint inscription on the tip of the spear. This was also his first time seeing a saint weapon inscribed with a 4-star saint inscription ever since he came to the Dao Martial Saint Land. Even his senior brother, Bai Li Hong, could not inscribe a 4-star saint inscription. Naturally, it was not that his senior brother's attainment in the saint inscription art was not high enough. It was just that his cultivation base was not high enough. Once his senior brother broke through to the saint stage and became a saint stage powerhouse, it would not be difficult for him to inscribe a 4-star saint inscription. As long as his cultivation base broke through, his senior brother would become a 4-star saint inscription master. Is there a problem? Situ Hang could not help but ask. However, Duan Ling Tian did not answer him. This was because Duan Ling Tian's attention was completely focused on the 4-star saint inscription on the tip of the spear. Duan Ling Tian could not tell what kind of 4-star saint inscription this was. As time passed by, after a deeper observation, he discovered some traces on the 4-star saint inscription. The traces were very faint, but they could not escape the probing of his spiritual energy. It's really a devil inscription. Unknowingly, a sneer appeared on the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth. You said the emperor would not harm you? Duan Ling Tian asked as he looked at Situ Hang after retracting his gaze. Yes. Situ Hang nodded with certainty. Put aside the fact that he's my adoptive father with his current position, there's no reason for him to harm me. Moreover, when Situ Hang reached the end of his sentence, a blush appeared on his pale face. He looked like a shy little girl. Due to this reason, he did not finish his sentence. If little Hang did not encounter this incident, he would have married Princess Chiao Ming in half a year at the most. Moreover, the emperor personally granted the marriage. When Duan Ling Tian was frowning because Situ Hang did not finish his sentence, Situ Ho said with a smile, Princess Chiao Ming is the emperor's only daughter. Duan Ling Tian finally understood. If that was the case, the emperor indeed had no reason to harm Situ Hang. As the emperor's only daughter, logically speaking, the emperor would definitely dote on Princess Chiao Ming. It was impossible for him to harm the princess's future husband after granting the marriage. After all, this world was similar to the ancient times on Earth. A woman's reputation was extremely important. It was impossible for him to use it as a joke. If it's not the emperor, then the devil inscription must have been inscribed later on. Duan Lingtian looked at Situ Hang and asked, "After the emperor granted you this spear, did you lend it to anyone else?" If one wanted to inscribe the devil inscriptions, even a brilliant devil cultivator saint inscription master would have to spend an entire day and night. After all, the devil inscription is different from ordinary saint inscriptions. It's a one-time use saint inscription, and it's a saint inscription that harms people. That's right, little Hang. After you obtained this spear, did you lend it to anyone else? Situ Ho asked as well. Before Situ Hang could reply, Duan Lingtian and Situ Ho who were looking at him had already gotten their answer. As soon as Duan Lingtian and Situ Ho finished speaking, Situ Hang's expression changed drastically. A hint of struggle could be seen in his eyes. After a moment of struggle, it turned into confusion and anger. "Who is it?" Situ Ho asked coldly as his eyes gleamed coldly. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could feel the temperature in the room seemed to have dropped a lot. As expected of a saint stage powerhouse. Even his anger is different from ordinary people. Duan Lingtian clicked his tongue inwardly. Situ Jua. Situ Hang sighed. It's actually him. Situ Ho's expression turned even gloomier. He really has the guts of a leopard. I'll take him to the enforcement hall now. Situ Ho was about to step out when he finished speaking. Grandfather Ho. Wait. Situ Hang and Duan Lingtian's voices sounded almost at the same time as they called out to Situ Ho. Chapter 1569. Grandpa Ho, we don't have any evidence. Situ Hang smiled wryly. Don't we have this, mister? Situ Ho looked at Duan Lingtian. It was obvious he was confident in Duan Lingtian. Naturally, this was also because Duan Lingtian had helped Situ Hang recover a lot earlier. Even the 4-star Saint Refinement Masters in the palace could not do anything about it, but this young man could do it. According to what Mr. said earlier, the devil inscription is obviously a very obscure thing. Not only that, but the traces left behind are also very faint. Mr. is only able to discover and recognize the devil inscription because he's very knowledgeable. However, other people might not believe him. Situ Hang voiced out his concern. As long as Mr. cures you, do you think they won't believe him? Situ Ho did not think much of it. Even if Mr. cures me, they can still deny the existence of the devil inscription. After all, if Mr. didn't say anything, even you and I wouldn't have known the existence of the devil inscription in this world. At that time, Situ Jua can accuse me of framing him. Situ Hang sighed. Young Master Situ is right. This matter can't be rushed. Even if we want to find Situ Jua, we have to think about it carefully. Duan Lingtian chimed in, which was rare of him. Although he did not know who Situ Jua was, based on Situ Hang and Situ Ho's attitude earlier, it was obvious they were certain the devil inscription in Situ Hang was related to Situ Jua. You're right, mister. Situ Hang nodded in agreement. At the same time, he forced himself to get off the bed and bowed at Duan Lingtian to thank him. Thank you for your help, mister. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to live until next month. Although the purple-clad young man before him had not completely healed him, he had recovered a lot from his miraculous treatment. You're too kind, young Master Situ. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. May I know your name, mister? Situ Hang asked politely. Duan Lingtian. Under Situ Hang and Situ Ho's gaze, Duan Lingtian replied with a smile. Until now, he still had a good impression of the Situ clan's great young master. After experiencing 2 lifetimes, he had his own ability to judge people. He could tell that Situ Hang was an honest and upright person, and he was definitely not someone ordinary aristocratic family's disciples could compare to. So it's Mr. Duan. After all, his body had not fully recovered. After standing for a while, Situ Hang's face gradually turned pale again. Little Hang, you should rest. Situ Ho hurriedly said when he saw this. Yes. Situ Hang nodded and greeted Duan Lingtian. After that, he smiled apologetically and went back to bed. At the same time, Duan Lingtian and Situ Ho left the room and returned to the courtyard. Mr. Duan, please forgive my previous rudeness. As soon as they came out, Situ Ho immediately apologized to Duan Lingtian. As for the rudeness he mentioned, it was none other than the incident where he asked Manager Fu, the manager of the inner mansion, to test Duan Lingtian. Elder Ho is also concerned about young Master Situ. I can understand. Duan Lingtian said. A smile appeared on Situ Ho's face when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Then he asked hesitantly, May I ask if you're a powerhouse on the heaven ranking, Master Duan? A powerhouse on the heaven ranking? Duan Lingtian was confused when he saw Situ Ho staring at him. What's that? He had heard of the earth ranking before. What was the heaven ranking? Mr. Duan, why you don't know about the heaven ranking? Situ Ho could see that Duan Lingtian did not seem like he was pretending. His eyes were wide open and his expression was a little dazed. This is my first time hearing about it. Duan Lingtian said, I've heard of the earth ranking before. It's a list of powerhouses at the peak of the mortal shedding stage. The earth ranking and the heaven ranking are not on the same level. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, there are countless earth rankings, but there are only a few dozen heaven rankings. Situ Ho shook his head. I'd like to hear more about it. After hearing Situ Ho's words, Duan Lingtian was curious about the heaven ranking. Then, with Situ Ho's introduction, Duan Lingtian learned what the heaven ranking was. It was a list that only fifth-rate forces were qualified to set up. It was a list that was set up by a fifth-rate force for powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage in an area under the control of a fifth-rate force. Although Windfall Nation was a sixth-rate Saint Nation, it was attached to a fifth-rate force called the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. In the area under the control of the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion, there were a total of 11 sixth-rate forces, and Windfall Nation was only one of them. Therefore, the powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage who were listed in the heaven ranking were all top Saint Rudiment stage powerhouses in the area under the control of the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. There were only a few people in Windfall Nation who were listed in the heaven ranking among 100 people. I can't believe you don't know about the heaven ranking, Master Duan. May I know where you're from, Master Duan? Situ Ho asked curiously. I'm from the Nine Sect Alliances district. Duan Lingtian answered honestly. Since he was going to ask the Situ clan to help him find Bai Li Hong's whereabouts, there was no need for him to hide this. The Nine Sect Alliances district? Situ Ho was enlightened. I've heard of that place before. It's at the border behind the desert in the south. I can't believe there's someone as outstanding as you there, Master Duan. Situ Ho sighed emotionally. Elder Ho, who's the Situ Zhua that you mentioned to young Master Situ? What kind of conflict does he have with young Master Situ? Duan Lingtian was curious about this. After all, Situ Hang was the great young master of Situ clan, the next successor to the clan leader of Situ clan. Someone actually wanted to murder such a person. Moreover, it was obvious the other party was also from Situ clan based on his name. Situ Zhua is also a direct descendant of our Situ clan, and he's known as the second young master. However, he's not related to Little Hang by blood. If we really want to talk about blood relations, I'm afraid we'll have to go back several tens of generations. Situ Ho explained slowly. Duan Lingtian could understand Situ Ho's words. Situ Hang and Situ Zhua were both direct line of descent, but they were not from the same bloodline. Our Situ clan's inheritance is not passed down through the bloodline. Instead, we select the most outstanding direct line of descent and nurture him to be the next clan leader. The current clan leader is Little Hang's father. Little Hang also did well and was selected as the next successor to the clan leader. Situ Ho continued, however, there's another outstanding person in Little Hang's generation. If Little Hang wasn't around, he'd definitely be able to replace him and be selected as the next successor to the clan leader. That person is Situ Zhua? When Duan Lingtian heard Situ Ho's words, he finally understood why Situ Zhua wanted to kill Situ Hang. It must be because he wanted to replace Situ Hang and become the next successor to the clan leader of Situ clan. After all, as long as Situ Hang was alive, he would not stand a chance. That's right. Situ Ho's eyes gleamed coldly as he said in a deep voice, I didn't expect him to be so deranged. He's challenging our Situ clan's rules. The first rule of the Situ clan's rules forbade the disciples from killing each other. Ordinary people really can't discover the devil inscription. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Master Duan, you can stay here with Little Hang for now. I still have to inform the clan leader about this, so I won't disturb you any longer. Situ Ho informed Duan Lingtian before he left after instructing the maids in the courtyard to take care of Duan Lingtian. Master Duan, please come with me. As the great young master of Situ clan, it was only natural that there were many maids in the courtyard where Situ Hang stayed. After hearing Situ Ho's instruction, a maid immediately led Duan Lingtian to a spare room. The room was neat and tidy. Although it was unoccupied, it was still very clean. It was obvious that it was usually cleaned. Master Duan, please let me know if you need anything. I'll wait outside the door. When the maid spoke to Duan Lingtian, she kept throwing flirtatious glances at him. Although she did not know if this purple-clad young man could cure the great young master, based on Elder Ho's attitude toward this person, it was enough for her to flatter him. If such a person took a liking to her, it would undoubtedly be a great opportunity for her to rise to the top. However, although the maid was quite pretty, she was not as pretty as Duan Lingtian's two fiancés. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian directly ignored her. I wonder where senior brother and Uncle Feng are now. I hope they've really come to Windfall Nation. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. I'll ask the clan leader of Situ clan later if he knows which fifth-rate force most people have the surname Han. This was the only clue Duan Lingtian had regarding Xuanai's origin. The force that Xuanai was in was obviously a big clan. Even the ancient Han clan on Cloud Continent was established by an ordinary disciple who came from there 10,000 years ago. The reason he guessed Xuanai was from a fifth-rate force was naturally because of the saint stones that Xuanai had given him. 90% of the saint stones were 5th-grade saint stones while the rest were 4th-grade saint stones. This was in line with the standard of a 5th-grade saint stone reserve that was usually in the hands of a 5th-rate force. Duan Lingtian sat quietly on the bed. He was not in a hurry to enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to cultivate. This was because he knew even if he entered the pagoda to cultivate, he would not be able to cultivate for long. Just as Duan Lingtian had expected, not long after he sat quietly, the maid's voice resonated from outside. Master Duan, the clan leader is here. Please come out. The clan leader mentioned by the maid was undoubtedly the clan leader of Situ clan. Duan Lingtian was not in a hurry to enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to cultivate. He was also waiting for the clan leader of Situ clan to visit him. As the biological father of the great young master of Situ clan, Situ Hang, the clan leader of Situ clan would definitely come to confirm it as soon as he found out someone could cure his son's strange illness. What a pity all parents in the world. As parents, there was basically no one who didn't love their children. When Duan Lingtian walked out of the room, he saw Situ Ho again. There was another person next to Situ Ho. It was a middle-aged man with a medium build. He wore a blue robe and had a jade-like face. His eyebrows were as sharp as swords, and he exuded the aura of a superior. Chapter 1570. Master Duan. Although Duan Lingtian looked very young, Situ Hao, the clan leader of Situ clan, did not dare to be disrespectful in front of him. His tone was filled with respect. In fact, when Duan Lingtian saw Situ Hao for the first time, he was certain Situ Hao was also a saint stage powerhouse. Clan leader of Situ clan. Duan Lingtian nodded at Situ Hao in response. Although Situ Hao was a saint stage powerhouse, Duan Lingtian did not feel any pressure when facing him. Although he was only a saint rudiment stage martial cultivator, he had even killed a saint stage powerhouse before. Naturally, he would not lose his composure in front of a saint stage powerhouse. Faced with Duan Lingtian, who was neither servile nor overbearing, Situ Hao's evaluation of Duan Lingtian rose a little. Previously, when he heard Situ Ho mention Duan Lingtian, he thought Situ Ho was exaggerating. However, now he knew Situ Ho was telling the truth. There was no falsehood at all. This young man named Duan Lingtian was indeed extraordinary. Master Duan, I heard from Elder Ho that you'll need a lot of materials to remove the devil inscription for my son. May I know what materials you need? Situ Hao asked bluntly. His tone was filled with a hint of urgency. Originally, Situ Hao did not have any hope of curing his son's strange illness. However, when he was on the verge of despair, a ray of hope suddenly appeared, causing him to feel inexplicably happy. I've already drawn the materials and I've even labeled them. Duan Lingtian handed Situ Hao the drawings that he had prepared when he was meditating in the room earlier. There were various materials drawn on the drawings, and some of their characteristics were labeled. It was mainly used for identification purposes. Master Duan, if you're able to gather all these materials, how long will it take for you to completely remove the devil inscription for my son? Situ Hao glanced at the drawings in his hand and put them away as though they were precious treasures. At the same time he asked Duan Lingtian. 1 month. Duan Lingtian said confidently, I'll only need 1 month, and I'll definitely return you a healthy young Master Situ, clan leader of Situ clan. 1 month. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, not only Situ Hao, but Situ Ho's eyes lit up as well. Situ Hao bade farewell to Duan Lingtian and Situ Ho before he left in a hurry. It was obvious he was going to prepare the materials. Before he left, he had promised Duan Lingtian that he would give him 2 4-star Dao talismans as soon as Situ Hang recovered. However, Duan Lingtian was not in a hurry. Since the Situ clan had publicly made such a promise, it was naturally impossible for them to go back on their word. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to slapping themselves in the face. Moreover, before he came to the Situ clan, he had also asked around and found out both the clan leader of Situ clan, Situ Hao, and the great young master of Situ clan, Situ Hang, were good people. At the very least, they had a good reputation in the capital of Windfall Nation. To Duan Lingtian's surprise, after Situ Hao left, Situ Ho also stayed in the courtyard. There were many empty rooms in the courtyard. Situ Ho stayed in the room next to Duan Lingtian's and became neighbors with Duan Lingtian. It seems like Elder Ho is worried that I'll run away. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. A few days after Situ Ho stayed in Situ Hang's courtyard, the atmosphere in another courtyard of the Situ clan's estate was a little gloomy. That Master Duan actually stayed in Situ Hang's courtyard for a few days? That old man, Situ Ho, also stayed there for a few days? A young man with a gloomy expression paced back and forth as he muttered to himself. His eyes gleamed coldly. Don't tell me that Master Duan can remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang's body? The moment the gloomy young man thought of this, horror dawned on his face. He immediately went to the guest room in his courtyard and looked for the guest in the room. The guest in the room was a man dressed in black with a grimace mask on his face. Young Master Zhua, is there anything I can help you with? The grimace man asked nonchalantly. Based on the grimace man's words, this gloomy young man was obviously the second young master of Situ clan, Situ Zhua. Are you sure that nobody can remove the devil inscription on your body? Situ Zhua asked in a deep voice. Of course. The grimace man said confidently, although my devil inscription is not a high-grade devil inscription, I'm sure there are only a handful of people in the southern Ridgyuan mansion who can remove my devil inscription. The people I know who can remove my devil inscription aren't in Windfall Nation. Do you know that someone went to visit Situ Hang recently and stayed at his place? Moreover, that old man, Situ Ho, is also staying at his place. Situ Zhua said in a deep voice, I suspect that person has a way to remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang's body. Impossible. The grimace man insisted. Then how do you explain this? If he can't do it, he would have left our Situ clan long ago. He wouldn't have stayed at Situ Hang's place. Situ Zhua asked. Upon hearing that, the grimace man fell silent for a moment. He only said after a long while, find an opportunity and I'll go with you to visit Situ Hang. As long as I see Situ Hang, I'll be able to confirm if that person can remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang's body. That's the only thing we can do now. If that person can really remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang's body, our efforts this time would have been in vain. Situ Zhua's expression turned even gloomier. A few days later, when Situ Zhua found out that the outsider was still staying at Situ Hang's place, he finally could not hold it in anymore. He brought the masked man along and went to visit Situ Hang. He said that he was here to visit his big brother. When the grimace man saw Situ Hang, his expression that was hidden under the mask changed immediately. This was because he noticed that Situ Hang's condition was much better than before. The energy of the devil inscription had also faded a lot. Who's that Master Duan? He can actually remove my devil inscription. How's this possible? I've never heard of him before. The grimace man immediately sent a voice transmission to Situ Zhua. Situ Zhua was shocked as a hint of unwillingness flashed in the depth of his eyes. However, he still maintained his composure on the surface. Brother Hang, it seems like you're recovering well. That Master Duan is really resourceful. He can actually treat the illness that those 4-star Saint inscription masters in the palace can't do anything about. Situ Zhua smiled as he said to Situ Hang, Brother Hang, I really hope that you'll recover soon. I still have many questions about martial tactics that I'd like to ask you. All right. Situ Hang nodded nonchalantly and said, if there's nothing else, I'd like to rest. He realized that Situ Zhua was the reason he was in such a state. Although Situ Hang did not completely fall out with Situ Zhua, he could no longer act as naturally as before. His temper was not so good that he could face someone who wanted to kill him with a smile. Brother Hang, I'll make a move first. I'll visit you again later. Situ Zhua did not seem to notice Situ Hang's indifference as he smiled and walked out of the room. As soon as he walked out of the room, he saw Situ Ho standing in the courtyard. He quickly greeted him, Elder Ho. Since when did you have such a person by your side? Who's he? Situ Ho asked nonchalantly as he looked at the grimace man behind Situ Ho. He's a friend I made outside. Situ Zhua smiled. If I'm not mistaken, he must be a devil cultivator, right? Situ Ho asked as he looked deeply at Situ Zhua. Devil cultivator? Situ Zhua was stunned. Then he shook his head and smiled. Elder Ho, you really know how to joke. Our Situ clan has always had an ancestral rule that no one in the clan is allowed to interact with a devil cultivator. I don't have the guts to befriend a devil cultivator. That's for the best. Situ Ho nodded nonchalantly. I heard it's all thanks to Master Duan that Brother Hang is able to recover so well. Elder Ho, may I know which room Master Duan is staying in? I'd like to pay him a visit and thank him on behalf of Brother Hang. Situ Jua said to Situ Ho. Before Situ Ho could reply, the door of one of the guest rooms in the courtyard opened with a creak. A purple-clad young man walked out from inside. The young man had dashing eyebrows and bright eyes. He was elegant and had an extraordinary temperament. With just a glance, Situ Jua felt ashamed of his inferiority. Master Duan. Situ Ho immediately looked at the purple-clad young man who walked out. He was Duan Ling Tian and took the initiative to greet him. Elder Ho. Duan Ling Tian responded with a smile. Then he walked to the stone table at the side and sat down. He picked up the teapot and poured himself a cup of tea before drinking it. He completely ignored Situ Jua and the grimace man standing behind him. The grimace man's eyes gleamed coldly with killing intent. So, this young man was the one who could dissolve his devil inscription? Nice to meet you, Master Duan. I'm Situ Jua. It's all thanks to you. Otherwise, I'm afraid Brother Hang would be in grave danger. Don't worry, as long as you cure Brother Hang, our Situ clan will definitely not mistreat you. When Situ Jua saw Duan Ling Tian ignoring him, anger rose in his heart. However, he suppressed it with all his might and thanked Duan Ling Tian with a smile. Situ Jua? Duan Ling Tian glanced at Situ Jua and nodded in realization. I've heard of you. You're the second young master of Situ clan. Duan Ling Tian emphasized the word, second. A cold gleam flashed in Situ Jua's eyes. Duan Ling Tian's words had undoubtedly violated his taboo. However, when he recalled that Situ Ho was at the side, he did not dare to act recklessly. That's right, I'm the second young master of Situ clan. Situ Jua smiled in response. However, at the same time he communicated with Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission. I don't know who you are, but I advise you not to poke your nose into other people's business. As long as you tell me you can't cure Situ Hang and stand by idly, I'm willing to give you 3 4-star Dao talismans. It's much more than the reward the Situ clan offered. Stand by idly? Upon hearing Situ Jua's voice transmission, Duan Ling Tian was obviously stunned. He asked in confusion through voice transmission, Isn't Situ Hang your big brother? You actually want me to stand by idly? Do you want him to die? Don't play the fool. Since you have a way to dissolve the devil inscription on his body, I'm sure you know about the devil inscription as well. If I'm not mistaken, he's already suspicious of me, right? Chapter 1571. I didn't expect second young Master Jua to know about the devil inscription as well. It seems like second young Master Jua also knows about the devil inscription on young Master Hang's body? After listening to Situ Jua's voice transmission, Duan Ling Tian looked at Situ Jua deeply before he said meaningfully. This time, Duan Ling Tian did not send a voice transmission. Instead he said it out loud. At this moment, Situ Ho's gaze turned sharp as he stared at Situ Jua. It was as though he wanted to see if Situ Jua would admit to it. I don't know what you're talking about. What devil inscription? I've never heard of it before. Situ Jua did not expect Duan Ling Tian to say it out loud. He was instantly enraged. However, he did not dare to show it. Instead, he feigned ignorance as he spoke. Second young Master Jua, you don't know about the devil inscription? That's strange. Earlier, you were the one who mentioned the devil inscription to me, and you even asked me to stand by and do nothing. Does this mean that I've heard wrongly? Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. Don't slander me. Situ Jua's face turned grave when he noticed Situ Ho's gaze that was getting sharper. He glared at Duan Ling Tian fiercely. Who are you? What's your intention? How dare you try to drive a wedge between Brother Hang and me? Slander me? Duan Ling Tian smiled. Second young Master Jua, you keep saying that I'm slandering you? Why don't we both swear on the lightning penalty oath and see who's the one who's slandering you? Duan Ling Tian raised his hand as he spoke. He was about to prick his finger and use his blood as a medium to swear on the lightning penalty oath. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're worthy of me swearing on the lightning penalty oath with you? A hint of panic flashed in the depth of Situ Jua's eyes. However, on the surface he still looked strong. After he sneered, he did not even bid farewell to Situ Ho and was about to leave with the masked man behind him. At this moment, a gust of wind blew past, and Situ Ho disappeared from his spot. When he reappeared, he was already blocking Situ Zhua and the masked man's path. "Elder Ho, what's the meaning of this?" Situ Zhua said with a frown. "I think you can each swear on the lightning penalty oath. That way each of you can prove your innocence, right?" Situ Ho said lightly. Situ Zhua's face darkened when he heard that. "Elder Ho, who does he think he is? Does he deserve to go against the lightning punishment oath with me? Don't forget that this is the Situ clan. You're not thinking of helping an outsider, are you? There's nothing to be biased about. Even if I'm helping you. I'm giving you a chance to clear your name." Situ Ho continued. While Situ Zhua's expression turned increasingly gloomy and he was rendered speechless, Situ Ho made his move again. In the blink of an eye, he went around Situ Zhua and attacked the devil-masked man behind Situ Zhua. The aura of a Saint Realm expert swept toward the ghoul-masked man like a black cloud. The expression of the unprepared ghoul-masked man changed drastically. Although the masked man's strength was not bad and had even reached the imminent saint stage, he had not broken through to the saint stage after all. There was still a huge gap between him and a saint stage powerhouse. The ghoul-masked man did not dare to be careless in the face of Situ Ho, who was charging at him menacingly. He unleashed all his techniques without holding back at all. What a joke. To him, holding back in front of a saint stage powerhouse was equivalent to digging his own grave. However, due to this reason, the ghoul-masked man exposed the fact that he was a devil cultivator. When the ghoul-masked man displayed his strength as a devil cultivator, Duan Lingtian, who was standing at the side, could clearly feel the devil seal tablet in his spatial ring stirring. Duan Lingtian directly ignored it since it was not his turn to make a move at this moment. As expected, he's a devil cultivator. Situ Ho smirked when he discovered the ghoul-masked man was a devil cultivator. The aura that rose from his body became even more powerful. It was obvious he was serious now. Horror dawned on Situ Zhua's face. In a panic, he crushed a jade token. After the jade token was crushed, an extremely fast streak of light swept across the sky like a meteor. It disappeared in a flash. A jade token that's inscribed with a warning saint inscription? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow. He was not unfamiliar with this kind of jade token. When he was still in the Moon Illumination sect, he had also obtained a similar jade token during the hunting assessment. However, compared to the jade token he obtained previously, Situ Zhua's jade token was obviously of a higher grade. At the very least, when he crushed the jade token, even Situ Ho, who was a saint stage powerhouse, did not react in time. Naturally, this was also because Situ Ho's attention was not on him. After Situ Ho learned the ghoul-masked man was a devil cultivator, he no longer held back when he attacked again. With just a flip of his palm, he easily killed the ghoul-masked man. "Situ Zhua, how dare you collude with a devil cultivator to harm your clan brother?" After killing the ghoul-masked man, Situ Ho looked at Situ Zhua coldly. His voice was extremely cold. "Elder Ho, I didn't know he's a devil cultivator." Even at this moment, Situ Zhua still maintained his composure and said nonchalantly, "You didn't know he's a devil cultivator?" Situ Ho smirked. "It's better for you to say these words to the enforcement elder." The moment his words left his mouth, Situ Ho took a step forward and was about to grab Situ Zhua to bring him to the enforcement hall. At this moment, another gust of wind blew past, and a middle-aged man with a medium build appeared in front of Situ Zhua. He looked at Situ Ho calmly. "Elder Ho, I wonder what mistake my son has made for you to bring him to the enforcement elder?" "Situ Ming, what a good son you have." When Situ Ho saw the middle-aged man, he could not help but frown. Then he snorted coldly. "No matter what, I must bring him to the enforcement hall today. Colluding with a devil cultivator to harm his clan brother is not a small crime." "Situ Ming?" When Duan Lingtian heard how Situ Ho addressed the middle-aged man, he could not help but glance at him. He had heard of Situ Ming before he came to the Situ clan. He was the second master of Situ clan. His position in the Situ clan was only below the clan leader, Situ Hao, and the three supreme elders. At the same time, he was also a saint stage powerhouse. The moment Situ Ho's words left his mouth, he went to grab Situ Zhua again. This time, Situ Ming did not stop him. All he did was watch calmly. When Situ Ho brought Situ Zhua away, he turned around and looked at Duan Lingtian deeply before he followed Situ Ho to the enforcement hall of Situ clan. This Situ Ming is not a simple person. I'm afraid Elder Ho might not be able to do anything to Situ Zhua. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. The outcome was just as Duan Lingtian had expected. Although Situ Zhua was punished, he was only punished to face the wall in the enforcement hall for 3 months. Why is the punishment so light? Duan Lingtian was puzzled. Situ Zhuo insisted that he didn't know the masked man was a devil cultivator. Moreover, he pushed the matter of the devil inscription to the devil cultivator I killed and said he didn't know about the devil inscription being inscribed by a devil cultivator. For this reason, the enforcement hall only charged him with the crime of associating with a devil cultivator. Situ Ho said in a deep voice. A hint of unwillingness could be seen on his face. We should make him swear on the lightning penalty oath to prove his innocence. I think he wouldn't dare to swear on the lightning penalty oath. Since he doesn't dare to swear on it, he must be the mastermind. Duan Lingtian said. He felt this problem was easy to solve. It's not that simple. Situ Ho smiled wryly as he shook his head. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian also learned the reason from Situ Ho. As it turned out, the Situ clan was not completely united. Although the Situ clan respected the clan leader, Situ Hao, on the surface, almost half of the clan's high-ranking officials secretly followed the second master, Situ Ming. Due to this reason, the Situ clan was divided into two factions. Apart from that, there were 5 saint stage powerhouses in the Situ clan. Apart from Situ Hao and Situ Ming, there were 3 others left. Situ Ho was one of them. He was on Situ Hao's side. As for the other 2 Saint Realm experts, one of them stood on Situ Ming's side. As for the last person, he remained neutral. The person who remained neutral was the strongest powerhouse in the Situ clan. He had the highest seniority in the Situ clan and was even more senior than Situ Ho, who was a generation older than Situ Hao. He was addressed as the old ancestor by the Situ clan. According to Situ Ho, the old ancestor of the Situ clan had not shown himself for many years. The last time he showed himself was when Situ Hao inherited the position of the clan leader. I can't believe the situation in the Situ clan is so complicated. In this case, this matter can only be left unsettled? Duan Lingtian asked. After all, nothing happened to Little Hang. Due to this reason, this matter can only be left unsettled. Although the Situ clan seems powerful, it's actually plagued by internal and external troubles. Even the clan leader doesn't dare to simply fall out with Situ Ming's faction. Once that happens, it'll definitely shake the Situ clan's foundation and give our enemies a chance to take advantage of it. Situ Ho sighed. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. After all, this was the general trend. Enemies? Isn't the Situ clan backed by the Windfall Nation's imperial family? Duan Lingtian frowned. Don't tell me there's someone who dares to ignore the imperial family and go against the Situ clan? The imperial family? Upon hearing this, Situ Ho shook his head. Put aside the fact that the imperial family is the most heartless. The relationship between the Situ clan and the imperial family is only tied to imperial concubinely. Those forces who dare to go against the Situ clan more or less have a similar relationship with the imperial family. Some of them even have a closer relationship with the imperial family than the Situ clan. In fact, the imperial family has tacitly approved of the open strife and veiled strife between the clans. Moreover, the imperial family is even more worried that we'll get along peacefully. Perhaps, when we do get along peacefully, the imperial family will intentionally stir up trouble between us. When Situ Ho reached the end of his sentence, he sighed. Duan Lingtian nodded. He could understand this. Naturally, the Windfall Nation's imperial family did not want those 7th-rate forces to get along peacefully. After all, once they got along peacefully, those 7th-rate forces would undoubtedly rise very quickly and might even threaten the imperial family's position. Chapter 1572. Duan Lingtian did not care how the Situ clan's internal conflict was resolved. This was because it had nothing to do with him at all. What he cared about was the materials he had asked the clan leader of Situ clan, Situ Hao, to gather. Naturally, those materials were not required to remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang, the great young master of Situ clan. In fact, he did not need any materials to remove the devil inscription on Situ Hang's body. He only needed to circulate his spiritual energy and spend a few days to remove it. The reason it was so complicated was because he wanted the Situ clan to help him gather some common materials needed to repair the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Apart from that, many of the materials Duan Lingtian asked Situ how to gather were materials that could be used to inscribe 3-star saint inscriptions. Currently, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base had already broken through to the Paramount Saint Rudiment stage, and his spiritual energy had also transformed. He could officially inscribe 3-star saint inscriptions now. However, although he could inscribe 3-star saint inscriptions, he did not have many materials with him. For this reason he could only use the Situ clan as a coolie. Master Duan, the materials you asked for are all here. One must admit that Situ Hao, the clan leader of Situ clan, was very efficient. It only took him half a month to gather all the materials that Duan Lingtian asked for. He placed them in the spatial ring and handed them to Duan Lingtian. Naturally, it was so smooth because Duan Lingtian did not ask Situ Hao to look for the rare materials needed to repair the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda. Those materials could only be found by chance. Even if the Situ clan was a seventh-rate clan, they might not be able to find those materials. For this reason, Duan Lingtian did not force him. I'll definitely return a healthy son to the clan leader of Situ clan in a month's time. Duan Lingtian said with a smile after he took the spatial ring. I believe in you, Master Duan. Situ Hao nodded with a smile. He was unaware that he had been cheated by Duan Lingtian and had lost many materials. Naturally, even if he knew, he would not say anything. After all, only Duan Lingtian had a way to cure his son. As the saying went, a rare commodity worth hoarding. In the following month, Duan Lingtian only treated Situ Hang once every 7 to 8 days. He spent the rest of his time to inscribe 3-star saint inscriptions. After a month, inscribing 3-star saint inscriptions was a piece of cake for him. At the same time, the 3-star saint inscriptions on Situ Hang's body was completely. Mr. Duan, I, Situ Hang, will remember your kindness of giving me a new lease of life. After the devil inscription was completely removed, Situ Hang had also completely recovered. After he recovered, he bowed solemnly at Duan Lingtian and thanked him. Star Duan Tian with. What Duan Do was master was do masters. At the same time, Duan Lingtian had also obtained 2 4-star Dao talismans. One was a 4-star Divine Strider talisman, and the other was a 4-star Golden Energy talisman. Once he used them, he would gain the speed and defense of a Saint Stage powerhouse for 15 minutes respectively. When Situ Hang found out it was Duan Lingtian's first time in Windfall Nation and was unfamiliar with the place, he immediately invited Duan Lingtian to stay in the Situ clan. As the clan leader, Situ Hao agreed with this decision as well. A few days later, Situ Hao learned from Situ Hang that Duan Lingtian was a 3-star saint inscription master. He was excited and personally visited Duan Lingtian to apologize. Master Duan, I really didn't know that you're a 3-star saint inscription master. Please forgive me for my negligence. What a joke. Before this, there was only one 3-star saint inscription master in the Situ clan. However, that 3-star saint inscription master was from Situ Ming's side. Since Situ Ming had monopolized the 3-star saint inscription industry in the Situ clan, Situ Hao had always turned a blind eye to Situ Ming. After all, the Situ clan still had to rely on the 3-star saint inscription master on Situ Ming's side. Due to this reason, when he learned Duan Lingtian was a 3-star saint inscription master, he immediately came to curry favor with him. At the same time, he also expressed that Duan Lingtian could stay in the Situ clan for as long as he wanted. The Situ clan would also give him the best treatment. Naturally, Duan Lingtian had deliberately exposed his identity as a 3-star saint inscription master since it was imperative for him to establish a foothold in the capital of Windfall Nation. His identity as a 3-star saint inscription master would allow him to establish a foothold in the Situ clan and the capital of Windfall Nation. Apart from that, his identity as a 3-star saint inscription master would also show his worth. Just as Duan Lingtian had expected, Situ Hang came to look for him a few days later. He wanted to ask for his help in inscribing 3-star saint inscriptions on a batch of saint weapons. Master Duan, this batch of saint weapons belongs to the Situ clan, so we're selling them? The Situ clan will provide the materials needed to inscribe the saint inscriptions, and we'll split the profit 50-50 with you. What do you think? Of course, that's not a problem. Although Duan Lingtian knew the Situ clan would agree to it no matter how much profit he asked for, he did not do so. He did not lack saint stones at all. Moreover, he had done the Situ clan a favor this time, so he did not have to worry about the Situ clan not paying attention to his matters in the future. What he cared about was not the profit of the saint stones but the potential benefits. Master Duan Yu. Situ Hang was stunned when he heard Duan Lingtian's reply. He was prepared for Duan Lingtian to bargain with him. However, his father's bottom line for him was a 30-70 split. The Situ clan would get 30% while Duan Lingtian would get 70%. It did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian did not even bargain and agreed to it directly. At this moment he felt a little guilty instead. Master Duan, why don't I give you a bigger share of the profit? Situ Hang asked with a wry smile. There's no need for that. I don't lack saint stones. Duan Lingtian shook his head and did not beat around the bush. Of course, if it's possible, I hope the Situ clan can help me investigate my senior brother's whereabouts. I want to know if my senior brother has come to Windfall Nation or not. It's just a small matter. Master Duan, you just need to draw a portrait of your senior brother, and I'll ask my father to send people to investigate all over Windfall Nation. Situ Hang said nonchalantly. That'll be troublesome. Apart from that, my senior brother is also a 3-star saint inscription master. Duan Lingtian nodded. When he reached the end of his sentence, he emphasized that Bai Li Hong was a 3-star saint inscription master as well. My senior brother is different from me. I'm used to being idle, and it's only a matter of time before I leave the Situ clan. If it's him, he might be willing to stay in the Situ clan for a long time. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he added another sentence. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Situ Hang's eyes lit up immediately. After spending some time together, he had a certain understanding of Duan Lingtian. He also found out that Duan Lingtian was actually younger than him. At that time, he already knew that based on Duan Lingtian's achievements at such a young age, his future would be limitless. He was afraid he would not be able to stay in the Situ clan for long. Because of that, both he and his father were extremely vexed. However, the news that Duan Lingtian brought to him was like a ray of light that swept away the haze in his heart. Don't worry, Master Duan. As long as your senior brother comes to Windfall Nation, our Situ clan will definitely find him. Situ Hang said solemnly. Also, there's one more thing. Seeing that Situ Hang was about to turn around and leave, Duan Lingtian called out to him. Master Duan, is there anything else? Situ Hang asked. He did not dare to slack off at all. Are there any powerhouses ranked at the top of the heaven ranking in Windfall Nation? Duan Lingtian asked. Yes. Situ Hang nodded. There's a total of 6 people in Windfall Nation who have entered the heaven ranking. The person ranked at the top is ranked 11th on the heaven ranking. Can you find him? Duan Lingtian asked again. I'm afraid it's difficult to find him in a short period of time. I heard he's looking for a breakthrough recently, and it's very likely that he's in closed-door cultivation. As a sectless cultivator, his whereabouts are unknown. Situ Hang shook his head. What about the most powerful person among the other 5? Can you find him in a short period of time? Duan Lingtian asked again. The most powerful person among the other 5 is ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking. It's not difficult to find her since she's a disciple from a 7th-rate sect in Windfall Nation. Master Duan, are you looking for her because you plan to challenge her? Situ Hang asked curiously. Situ Hang had already learned from Situ Ho that Duan Lingtian's strength was extraordinary. When he heard Duan Lingtian was looking for a powerhouse on the heaven ranking, he could instantly guess what Duan Lingtian was trying to do. If he succeeded in challenging a powerhouse on the heaven ranking, he would be able to replace her. The powerhouse on the heaven ranking would be removed from the heaven ranking as well. The reason the heaven ranking had such a rule was to prevent people from purposely losing to their opponents. Therefore, if they lost, their names would be removed from the heaven ranking. That's right. Duan Lingtian nodded. He planned to challenge a powerhouse on the heaven ranking because as long as he was ranked on the heaven ranking, he would definitely become famous in Windfall Nation. Not only that, but he would also gain a certain amount of fame in the Southern Ridgyuan Mansion. Duan Lingtian was not a flamboyant person. He planned to do this because he wanted to find Bai Li Hong and the others as soon as possible. He believed that as long as Bai Li Hong knew he was in the Situ clan, he would definitely rush over to meet him immediately. Master Duan, although I don't doubt your strength, it's a little risky for you to directly challenge the person ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking. I suspect that person's current strength is enough to enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking. Situ Hang said with a hint of dread. Why do you say so? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. He did not know why Situ Hang thought so highly of the person ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking. Speaking of her, she can be considered as a legend in Windfall Nation. She's not old and she's even younger than you, Master Duan. Not only that, but as far as I know, she came from the faraway mortal continent. However, such a woman from the mortal continent has innate talent that far surpasses her peers. Previously, she only took half a year to go from the 95th place on the heaven ranking to the 23rd place. Chapter 1573. She's from the mortal continent? Moreover, she's a woman? Upon hearing Situ Hang's words, Duan Lingtian was greatly surprised. Even if she was a woman from Windfall Nation, her achievements would still be shocking to him. After all, that woman was younger than him. Moreover, based on Situ Hang's words, The fact that the woman could improve so much in just half a year was enough to prove that her innate talent far surpassed the younger generation in Windfall Nation. And it was this woman who, like him, came from the mortal continent. It seems like apart from our cloud continent, the other two mortal continents are also filled with hidden talents. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. When Duan Lingtian learned about the woman, his first thought was that she was from one of the two mortal continents other than Cloud Continent. After all, he was from the Cloud Continent. If there was such an outstanding person on the Cloud Continent, he would have heard of her. Naturally, he could not rule out the possibility that she was from the Cloud Continent as well. Perhaps she was more low-key? If I defeat her, my name should be known in the entire Windfall Nation, right? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Situ Hang. Of course. Situ Hang nodded with certainty. If you defeat her, not only will your name be known in the entire Windfall Nation, but your name will also be known in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. After all, that woman is a well-known figure in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. Upon hearing Situ Hang's words, Duan Lingtian felt relieved and made up his mind. Then I'll challenge her. You've made up your mind? Situ Hang was stunned when he saw Duan Lingtian still made up his mind after learning about the woman's background. He could not help but ask. Yes, I've made up my mind. Duan Lingtian nodded. Help me make the arrangements. There's no need to make any arrangements. You just need to issue a battle invitation to her. Situ Hang shook his head and said, leave the battle invitation to me. All right, thank you. Duan Lingtian nodded. With Situ Hang in charge, he naturally felt assured. After taking the portrait of Bai Li Hong from Duan Lingtian, Situ Hang left to look for his father, the clan leader of Situ clan, Situ Hao. When Situ Hao learned that Duan Lingtian had a senior brother who was also a 3-star saint inscription master, and that he would be recruited into the Situ clan as long as he could find him, Situ Hao naturally put in a lot of effort. Since Situ Hang could foresee that Duan Lingtian would not stay in the Situ clan for long, how could he not foresee it as well? Although he did not have much contact with Duan Lingtian, he could see that Duan Lingtian was a hidden dragon who could soar to the sky at any time. He was not someone the small Situ clan could tolerate. Because of this, he was occasionally very vexed. After all, Duan Lingtian's departure meant that he no longer had a 3-star saint inscription master on his side. Currently, Duan Lingtian's senior brother had appeared. Although he had not found him yet, it had given him a ray of hope. Father, I'll leave the matter of helping Master Duan find his senior brother to you. I still have to issue a dual invitation to the Drift Blaze sect. Situ Hang said after passing the portrait in his hand to Situ Hao. Issue a dual invitation to the Drift Blaze sect? Upon hearing Situ Hang's words, Situ Hao could not help but frown. What's going on? When did you offend the people from the Drift Blaze sect? Why don't I know about this? Situ Hao's expression turned grave when he reached the end of his sentence. The Drift Blaze sect was a 7th-rate sect in Windfall Nation. Their strength was not inferior to the Situ clan. However, when he heard that his son was going to issue a dual invitation to the Drift Blaze sect, the first thought that appeared in his mind was that his son had a conflict with the people from the Drift Blaze sect. In his opinion, this was not a good thing. Father, you've misunderstood. Situ Hang shook his head. I'm not the one who wants to issue a dual invitation to the Drift Blaze sect. I'm the one who's going to issue a dual invitation to the Drift Blaze sect on behalf of Master Duan. Master Duan? Situ Hao's frown deepened. There's a conflict between Master Duan and the Drift Blaze sect? No. Situ Hang shook his head. Situ Hang shook his head. Without waiting for Situ Hao to ask again, he immediately explained, it's Master Duan who wants to challenge the Drift Blaze sect's female disciple who's ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking. This time, I'm sending the challenge letter to the Drift Blaze sect on his behalf. Challenge Lady Feng? Situ Hao sighed in relief when he found out that Duan Lingtian did not have a conflict with the Drift Blaze sect. However, confusion could be seen in his eyes when he heard Situ Hang's words. Although there aren't many powerhouses on the heaven ranking in Windfall Nation, there are still a few of them. Why did Master Duan choose to challenge Lady Feng? That Lady Feng is not a simple person. Situ Hao's expression was grave when he reached the end of his sentence. Whether it was Situ Hao, Situ Hang, or most of the people in Windfall Nation, they only knew that the female disciple who rose to prominence in the Drift Blaze sect in the past year had the surname Feng. They did not know Lady Feng's full name at all. Moreover, not many people in the Drift Blaze sect knew Lady Feng's full name as well. In the Drift Blaze sect, the sect's elders and even the sect's disciples addressed her as Lady Feng. She was also the direct disciple of the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect. She had only joined the sect for a few years, but she was already the chief disciple, intimidating the younger generation in Drift Blaze sect. A year ago, she was already known as the strongest person below the Saint Stage powerhouses in Drift Blaze sect. Father, it's true that Lady Feng is not a simple person. But do you think Master Duan is a simple person? Situ Hang was non-committal when he heard Situ Hao's words. Naturally, Master Duan is not a simple person. According to Elder Ho, Master Duan's strength is definitely enough to enter the heaven ranking. However, even if Master Duan can enter the heaven ranking, he might not be able to defeat Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect. Half a year has passed, I'm afraid Lady Feng's strength is enough to enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking. When Situ Hao reached the end of his sentence, it seemed like he did not have high hopes for Duan Lingtian. Father, I've already told Master Duan about what you just said. However, after Master Duan learned about this, he's still full of confidence. It's obvious he's confident. I believe Master Duan won't speak without thinking. Based on Situ Hang's words, he was full of confidence in Duan Lingtian. Naturally, this was also because Duan Lingtian had pulled him back from the gates of hell. His life was saved by Duan Lingtian. Naturally, he was biased toward Duan Lingtian. Since Master Duan is so confident, you can go and issue the challenge letter on his behalf. After you issue the challenge letter, I'll ask Elder Ho to follow you and Master Duan to Drift Blaze sect to battle Lady Feng. If it's not for the fact that I have something to deal with in the clan, I'd like to personally witness Lady Feng's elegance as well, Situ Hao said. When he reached the end of his sentence, a hint of regret could be heard in his tone. Although Lady Feng of Drift Blaze sect was famous in the entire Windfall Nation, he had never seen her before. I've long heard that Lady Feng is a peerless beauty who's capable of causing the downfall of a nation. This time, I'll be able to feast my eyes on her when I follow Master Duan to Drift Blaze sect. Situ Hang chuckled. Go on. After you're done with Master Duan, you should follow me to the palace to meet His Majesty to discuss your marriage with Princess Qiuming, Situ Hao urged. When he reached the end of his sentence, a smile could be seen on his face. Upon hearing Situ Hao's words, Situ Hang blushed and left as though he was fleeing. This boy is still shy. When Situ Hao saw Situ Hang's silhouette disappearing before his eyes, he shook his head and smiled. His smile was filled with affection. One must admit that Situ Hang was very efficient. In just 2 days, the challenge letter that he asked the Situ clan's people to deliver had already arrived at Drift Blaze sect. To be more precise, it was delivered to the Drift Blaze sect's disciples at the mountain gate of Drift Blaze sect's estate. The interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan, is challenging Lady Feng, who's ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking? When the Drift Blaze sect's disciple saw the content of the challenge letter, his eyes widened immediately. He doesn't even have a name. Who's this Master Duan? He's really putting on airs. Does he really think he's on par with our Drift Blaze sect's Lady Feng? Another guy who's looking for a beating. As a disciple guarding the Drift Blaze sect's mountain gate, even though he was not on duty every day, he had received no less than 10 challenge letters in the past year. The content of those challenge letters was all about their Drift Blaze sect's Lady Feng. Although there were all kinds of challengers, they were all defeated by Lady Feng in just one move. As Lady Feng's reputation grew, nobody had come to issue a challenge letter in the past month. It did not cross his mind that another person who was looking for a beating would issue a challenge letter after a month. Moreover, this person who was looking for a beating was very pretentious. He did not say his name and only said that he was Master Duan. If Duan Lingtian knew what this Drift Blaze sect's disciple was thinking, he would definitely feel wronged. This was because he did not know the content of the challenge letter at all. If he was the one who issued the challenge letter, he would, of course, write his name in it. However, since Situ Hang was the one who wrote the challenge letter, and he respected him a lot, he naturally did not write his name in it. In Situ Hang's eyes, Master Duan was a title that expressed his respect to Duan Lingtian. Situ clan? The Situ clan in the capital? When the other Drift Blaze sect's disciple heard this, he was surprised. I think so. The former nodded. The person who came is the interim advisor of Situ clan. If he loses, isn't the Situ clan afraid that their reputation will be ruined? Another Drift Blaze sect's disciple mocked. Even if the interim advisor of Situ clan loses, it won't affect the Situ clan that much. After all, our Drift Blaze sect's Lady Feng is currently known as the strongest person on the Saint Rudiment stage in Windfall Nation. If it wasn't for the fact that the fellow who's ranked 11th in the heaven ranking is hiding, our Lady Feng would have long defeated him and ranked 11th in the heaven ranking. I heard from an inner court elder that with Lady Feng's current strength, she's confident that she can rank in the top 10 of the heaven ranking. Chapter 1574. The Drift Blaze sect's estate was located in a chain of volcanoes. Of course, apart from the few volcanoes in the middle that were active, the rest of the volcanoes were dead volcanoes that had been dormant for a long time. The inner court and outer court of the Drift Blaze sect were located in active and dormant volcanoes respectively. In the inner court of the Drift Blaze sect, the place where the lava in the volcanoes was the most active was the Drift Blaze sect's forbidden area. This was because the people who cultivated there were all Saint Stage powerhouses in Drift Blaze sect. They were like the guardians of Drift Blaze sect. Usually, only those who were inner court elders and above were allowed to enter the forbidden area if they had something to do. However, a few years ago, the rules of the Drift Blaze sect's forbidden area were changed because of one person. She was the first person who was not a Saint Stage powerhouse to cultivate in the Drift Blaze sect's forbidden area. She was also a direct disciple of the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect. She was also known as Lady Feng by the people in Drift Blaze sect. Currently, how many of them still remembered how many people were secretly jealous of Lady Feng when she first came to the Drift Blaze sect? They even slandered her verbally. They said she was lucky to have the sect leader as her master and was very good at flattering the sect leader. That was why she was allowed to cultivate in the forbidden area with the most abundant heaven and earth spirit energy in Drift Blaze sect. In fact, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect had two other direct disciples before this. However, those two direct disciples were not qualified to cultivate in the forbidden area. However, a few years had passed. Until today, nobody dared to say Lady Feng was not qualified to cultivate in the forbidden area anymore. What a joke. With Lady Feng's current achievements at such a young age, she would definitely be able to break through to the saint stage in the future. Moreover, her achievements in the future would not be inferior to the sect leader and the other few supreme elders. This was because the sect leader and the other supreme elders were not as good as her when they were at her age. Due to this reason, nobody in Drift Blaze sect disobeyed Lady Feng. In the Drift Blaze sect's forbidden area, a huge courtyard stood on a platform halfway up the mountain. The huge courtyard was filled with green flowers and trees, giving off a tranquil and refreshing feeling. At this moment, there was a woman with a graceful figure standing in the courtyard. She wore a fiery red robe and looked like a fire spirit. Her waist-length hair cascaded down like a waterfall, accentuating her almost perfect face. She was like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. Her willowy eyebrows, bright eyes, jade-like nose, and cherry-like mouth were all perfectly sculpted by the Creator. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this woman in a fiery red robe was devastatingly beautiful. "I'm still one step away." The woman had just walked out of her room. She let out a long sigh before she muttered, "Elder brother Duan Tianwu will be able to meet you soon. Master said that as long as I break through to the saint stage, he'll let me leave the Dao Martial Saint land and return to Cloud Continent. Don't worry, it won't be long before I'll be able to take the final step and break through to the saint stage." At some point in time, the woman started to look at the southern horizon, and her mind started to wander. In the end, she was actually mesmerized. However, someone soon disturbed the woman. The person who disturbed the woman was none other than Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect. Ziyun was a graceful and luxurious beautiful woman. Looking at her nearly perfect face, one could tell that when she was young, her beauty was not much inferior to that woman who called herself Tianwu. Tianwu. The moment Ziyun appeared, she appeared next to the red-clad woman, causing the woman who was in a daze to snap back to her senses. "Master." The woman was respectful when she faced Ziyun. She owed her master's unreserved cultivation to her today's achievement. "Get ready. 2 weeks later, the interim advisor of Situ clan will come to our Drift Blaze sect to challenge you." With a raise of her hand, Ziyun passed a letter of challenge to the woman. "Situ clan? The Situ clan in the capital?" The woman took the letter of challenge. "Yes, it's the Situ clan in the capital. The people from the Situ clan are not simple people. I've never heard of this interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan. For this reason, don't let your guard down when you fight him," Ziyun reminded. The woman nodded. "Yes." At the same time, she opened the letter of challenge. When she saw the word Duan, she could not help but feel a little dazed. "Master Duan? He doesn't even have a name. It seems like he's a proud and aloof person as well," the woman said. "No matter who he is, no matter how proud he is, I have confidence in you," Ziyun said. Ziyun nodded. Meanwhile, in the distant capital of Windfall Nation in the Situ clan's estate, Situ Hang, the great young master of Situ clan, found Duan Lingtian again. Master Duan, I've already sent a letter of challenge to Drift Blaze sect on your behalf. 2 weeks later you'll officially challenge Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect. Situ Hang did not beat around the bush when he saw Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded. His eyes gleamed as he asked, that female disciple from Drift Blaze sect has the surname Feng? Yes. Situ Hang nodded. Her surname is Feng, and she's from the mortal continent. Could she be Tianwu? Even Duan Lingtian did not know why such a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Do you know Lady Feng's full name? Duan Lingtian asked after taking a deep breath as he looked at Situ Hang. I don't know about that. Situ Hang shook his head. Let alone me, even most people in Windfall Nation don't know her name. Moreover, I'm afraid not many people in Drift Blaze sect know her full name as well. Duan Lingtian nodded again. At the same time, he shook his head and suppressed the thought of suspecting that she was Tianwu. It's impossible for her to be Tianwu. Although Tianwu's innate talent is not bad, that's only on Cloud Continent. Even if her foundation is good and she's stronger than ordinary martial cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land, it's impossible for her to be so ridiculously strong. When Duan Lingtian recalled the achievements of Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect in the past year, he completely dismissed the thought of suspecting that she was Feng Tianwu. However, when he thought of Tianwu through Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect, Duan Lingtian felt a sense of loss again. Tianwu, where are you? Do you know that elder brother Duan is looking for you? As though he could see that Duan Lingtian's mood was a little heavy, Situ Hang sensibly left even though he did not know what Duan Lingtian was thinking about. He knew that at this moment, the only thing he could do was to not disturb Master Duan. Dragons in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Perhaps, to ordinary martial and Dao cultivators, the mountains where the dragons resided were mysterious. Even if they knew the location, it would be difficult for them to enter. However, to some people, entering the dragon's lair was as easy as entering a no man's land. A middle-aged man brought along a skinny black-clad old man as they swaggered into the dragon's lair. They did not try to conceal themselves along the way so they were not discovered by the dragons who were patrolling the area. Naturally, this was also because their speed was so fast that the dragons whose cultivation base was much lower than theirs did not have time to react. The two travel-worn men who came from afar were none other than Duan Ruffing, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, and one of his capable subordinates, Kumi. Originally, with Duan Ruffing and Kumi's speed, they should have arrived at the dragon's lair after leaving the Moon Illumination sect. However, something happened along the way. I can't believe some people from the Zoroastrianism left the upper province many years ago and came to the lower province. If I'm not mistaken, the person they're looking for must be my daughter-in-law Kerr. Although they had entered the dragon's lair, Duan Ruffing was a little absent-minded. His mind was completely focused on the few people from the Zoroastrianism he had encountered along the way. Those few people were so strong that they were not much weaker than Kumi. If a few of them attacked together, Kumi might not be a match for them. After he killed a few of them and left one of them alive, he performed the soul-searching tactic on him. As it turned out, those few people were not important in the Zoroastrianism at all. They were just insignificant people in the Zoroastrianism. Naturally, since that person was not important in the Zoroastrianism, Duan Ruffing did not manage to find out much useful information. He only found out that the other party came to the lower province to look for someone. The person they were looking for was also someone who had long been designated as the Saint Girl by the Zoroastrianism. Based on the clues left behind by his son, Duan Lingtian, on Cloud Continent, he could faintly guess that the person the Zoroastrianism people were looking for was his daughter-in-law, Kerr, who had been abducted by the people who claimed to be Zoroastrianism. Although he had never seen Kerr before, he was not unfamiliar with Kerr. This was because he would hear his wife mention Kerr every now and then. He knew that Kerr was the daughter-in-law that his wife was most satisfied with. She was also the daughter-in-law that his wife had watched grow up. Whoosh. Accompanied by the faint sound of wind whistling, an old man dressed in a blood-red long robe blocked Duan Ruffing and Kumi's path. Just a moment ago, Duan Ruffing had already noticed the old man, so he withdrew his thoughts in advance. I was wondering who dares to barge into our dragons. As it turns out, it's old man Ku. The old man dressed in a blood-red long robe quickly shifted his gaze to Kumi. It was obvious he knew Kumi. Then, his gaze shifted to Duan Ruffing, who was standing in front of Kumi. Although Duan Ruffing was a stranger to him, it was not difficult for him to guess Duan Ruffing's identity when he saw Kumi following behind him. Greetings, Mansion Master Duan. After the old man figured out Duan Rufing's identity, he gasped inwardly before bowing carefully. Duan Rufing, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, had risen to power in less than 40 years. To the dragons, 40 years was merely a period of time for them to take a nap. However, in such a short period of time, an extraordinary person had appeared in the Dao Martial Saint Land. That person was none other than Duan Rufing. Duan Rufing had only used less than 40 years to go from being a nobody to being in charge of a powerful force, the Azure Cloud Mansion, that was not inferior to the dragons. Although Duan Rufing was not even a fraction of his age, he did not dare to be disrespectful in front of Duan Rufing. This was because he knew Duan Rufing's strength was far above his. In fact, Duan Rufing was comparable to the clan leader of the dragons. Chapter 1575. Lord Mansion Master. He's the five-clawed blood dragon of the dragons. Shuechan. When the blood-robed old man bowed at Duan Rufing respectfully, Kumi transmitted his voice to Duan Rufing. He's also the current enforcement elder of the dragons. I'm looking for Diju. Duan Rufing glanced at Shuechan indifferently and said calmly, Diju? If Duan Rufing had said he was looking for the clan leader of the dragons, Shuechan would not be surprised. However, Duan Rufing said he was looking for Diju. He could not help but feel shocked. Although Diju was also a five-clawed golden dragon like the clan leader, he had not fully grown yet. Although his strength was not bad, he was far from being comparable to Shuechan, let alone the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Mansion Master Duan, may I know why you're looking for Diju? Shuechan asked hesitantly. He could tell the Mansion Master of Azure Cloud Mansion did not come with good intentions. Shuechan, does our Lord Mansion Master have to report to you when he comes to the dragons to look for someone? Kumi sneered as he stared at Shuechan coldly. Although Shuechan was a five-clawed blood dragon, he was not afraid at all. To a certain extent, he and Shuechan were old rivals. Although it was difficult for him to defeat Shuechan, it was impossible for Shuechan to defeat him as well. Of course, that's not what I meant. If Kumi was alone, Shuechan, naturally, would not be afraid of him. However, now that Duan Rufing was here, he could not be arrogant no matter what. Kumi alone was enough to restrain him. On the other hand, Duan Rufing alone could easily defeat him. In the next instant, Shuechan saw Duan Rufing completely ignored him and directly walked toward the depths of the dragon's estate. At the same time, a powerful divine consciousness swept out from Duan Rufing's body. In just a blink of an eye, it shrouded more than half of the dragon's estate. It was as though he wanted to turn the dragons upside down. Shuechan felt a great amount of pressure from the powerful spiritual consciousness. Although it was not directed at him, it was still difficult for him to breathe due to the close distance. Rumor has it that although Mansion Master Duan has not risen to power for a long time, his strength is not inferior to any of the leaders of forces on the same level as the Azure Cloud Mansion. It seems like the rumors are true. Mansion Master Duan is much more powerful than I've imagined. Shuechan's heart shook. He was filled with dread towards Duan Rufing. However, when he thought about how Duan Rufing had acted so brazenly in front of him at the dragon's encampment, he could not help but feel a wave of anger rise in his heart. Mansion Master Duan Yu. Just as Shuechan opened his mouth to stop Duan Rufing, he was interrupted by a black figure that appeared out of nowhere in front of him. Shuechan, I'd like to see if you've improved over the years. The person who stopped Shuechan was Kumi. Kumi's skinny body was covered in a black robe. His hand that was holding onto the walking stick was trembling at a strange frequency. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying light as though he was ready to attack Shuechan at any time. If Kumi was alone, Shuechan would have made his move long ago. However, faced with Kumi's obstruction, it was impossible for him to stop Duan Rufing. Even though he was not afraid of Kumi due to this reason, he did not make his move. Let's look for the clan leader. This was the only way Shuechan could think of. Among the dragons, the only person who could stop Duan Rufing was most likely the clan leader. The moment Shuechan thought of this, he transformed into a bloody ray of light and disappeared before Kumi's eyes. Kumi did not chase after him. Instead, he followed closely behind Duan Rufing and entered the dragon's encampment together. Kumi, you've met Diju before. Find him. Duan Rufing's expression was calm, but there was a murderous intent hidden in the depth of his eyes. That five-clawed golden dragon called Diju had almost killed his son. There was no doubt he was completely enraged. In this world, there were two people who were irreplaceable in his eyes. They were his wife Li Ro and his son Duan Lingtian. Previously, he had left Duan Tian on Cloud Continent because he wanted to let Duan Tian build a strong foundation on Cloud Continent so that he would be able to improve even more when he came to the Dao Martial Saint Land. If it was not for this reason, he would have brought Duan Tian to the Azure Cloud Mansion long ago. Yes. Kumi quickly nodded as his eyes gleamed coldly. After he learned that his young mansion master was almost killed by Diju, his heart was filled with guilt. After all, he knew Diju had passed by the southern district of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He had even met Diju before. However, he did not expect Diju's target would be his young mansion master, so he did not stop him. If he had known Diju's target was his young mansion master, he would not have allowed him to travel south. Due to the guilt in his heart, Kumi did not hold back at all when he extended his divine consciousness to search for Diju. Along the way, Duan Ruffing and Kumi had used their divine consciousness to search without restraint. Naturally, they had alerted many members of the dragons. Initially, these members of the dragons were aggressive and wanted to teach Duan Ruffing and Kumi a lesson. However, when the few four-clawed divine dragon elders were easily defeated by Kumi after they had revealed their true forms, they lost their temper completely. Who are they? They actually came to our dragons as though they're strolling in their own backyard. Don't be unconvinced. If you're capable, go and kill them. It's obvious that the black-clad old man respects the middle-aged man. However, this old man who's just a follower can easily defeat so many four-clawed divine dragon elders from our dragons. Unless the five-clawed divine dragon elders make a move, I'm afraid none of us are a match for him. The group of clansmen from the dragon clan felt helpless when they saw Duan Rufeng and Kumi acting recklessly. They could only watch on helplessly. At the same time, they were also hoping that the five-clawed divine dragon elders would appear soon. Who's that? How dare you barge into our dragons? Perhaps the heavens had heard the thoughts of the members of the dragon clan. Soon after, a burly figure appeared in front of Duan Rufeng and Kumi. It was a burly old man dressed in green. The burly old man hovered in the air. There was an awe-inspiring look on his face. Elder Qin Yan. It's Elder Qin Yan. Elder Qin Yan is a five-clawed divine dragon from our dragons. If he makes a move, he'll definitely be able to deal with that black-clad old man. When the burly old man appeared, the eyes of the dragon's members who were wary of Kumi's strength lit up immediately. Duan Ruffing could not help but frown when he was stopped by the old man, Qin Yan, with a displeased expression on his face. Scram. Kumi was even more straightforward as he shouted. At the same time he raised his hand, and the air seemed to have frozen. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Withered tree branches appeared out of thin air within a 100-meter radius. The vine-like branches bound Qin Yan in just a blink of an eye. They pulled him to the side as though they were playing with him. Qin Yan wanted to break free from the vine-like branches after he was comfortable. However, he realized that he could not break free from the bondage of the branches without transforming into his original form. Withered tree territory. Don't tell me you're Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion? Just when Qin Yan was about to transform into his true form, a thought flashed in his mind. He guessed something from the territory that was binding him. However, Kumi could not be bothered with him. After he tossed him to the side, he no longer bothered with him. Kumi stood at the side and welcomed Duan Ruffing into the dragon territory. As a five-clawed divine dragon, Qin Yan naturally had his own pride. When he saw Kumi actually dared to ignore him, he was instantly enraged. As an earth-shattering dragon roar resonated in the air, Qin Yan transformed into his true form. A green divine dragon that was several hundred meters long appeared. Judging by the 5 sharp claws on each of his claws, it was obvious he was a 5-clawed green dragon. The 5-clawed green dragon hovered in the air. His body that was several hundred meters long almost covered the entire sky. It gave off a feeling as though a dark cloud was pressing down on a city. Elder Qin Yan is serious now. Upon seeing this, many of the dragon's members' eyes lit up immediately. All of them stared intently at the scene. Who's this black-clad old man? To think he's able to force Elder Qin Yan to transform into his true form in such a short time. He's really not simple. Some of the dragon's members noticed the details. Elder Qin Yan said earlier that the black-clad old man is Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion? One of the dragon's members asked in confusion. Azure Cloud Mansion? Kumi? Many of the dragon's members shook their heads. It was their first time hearing about such a person since they rarely went out. I hope he's not Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Otherwise, I'm afraid Elder Qin Yan will be in deep trouble. Some of the 4-clawed divine dragon elders who had heard of Kumi's name had a hint of dread on their faces. Elders, Is Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion really that powerful? Many of the hot-headed elders asked in confusion. Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion is as famous as Elder Shui, the enforcement elder of our dragons. Over the past few hundred years, he and Elder Shui have fought more than 10 times. However, every time it ended in a draw. This has never changed. This has never changed, one of the four-clawed divine dragon elders said solemnly. What? His words shocked the group of hot-headed elders in the surroundings. As members of the dragons, they naturally knew how powerful Elder Shui was. Even among the dragons, Elder Shui's strength could be ranked in the top 3. However, such a person was actually able to fight Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion to a draw so many times. I hope he's not Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Many of the dragon's members prayed inwardly. Unfortunately, their prayers were destined to be in vain. In just a blink of an eye, the elder of the dragons who had transformed into a 5-clawed green dragon had already exchanged more than 10 blows with Kumi. Bang! Accompanied by a loud explosion, the black-clad skinny old man stood there motionlessly in the eyes of the dragon's members. Chapter 1576. You can cast the withered tree territory and you're so powerful as well. You must be Kumi. At this moment, the 5-clawed green dragon who was heavily injured after his body was sent flying again. His eyes were filled with dread when he looked at the skinny figure shrouded in black. Qing Yan, let's join forces. I don't believe we can't defeat a mere Kumi. Before Kumi could reply to Qing Yan, the 5-clawed green dragon, another old voice resonated in the air. Then, under the watchful eyes of the others, a gray-clad old lady appeared and stared at Kumi coldly. Before the others could see her face clearly, her human form had already disappeared and was replaced by a 5-clawed divine dragon that was several hundred meters long. However, unlike the 5-clawed green dragon, her entire body was purple. She was a 5-clawed purple dragon. Apart from that, it was obvious her body was much longer than the 5-clawed green dragon. In fact, among the dragons, the longer one's body was, the more powerful one was. It's Elder Violet Crystal. Among the dragons, Elder Violet Crystal's strength is second only to Elder Blood, who's a 5-clawed blood dragon. If she and Elder Qing Yan join forces, they'll definitely be able to defeat Kumi from the Azure Cloud Mansion. The Azure Cloud Mansion's Kumi lives up to his name indeed. However, he can forget about defeating Elder Violet Crystal and Elder Qing Yan if they join forces. After the appearance of the 5-clawed purple dragon, the group of dragons who were watching the battle were in high spirits. All of them stared intently at the development of the situation, anticipating the exciting moment. 2 5-clawed divine dragons fighting the Azure Cloud Mansion's powerhouse, Kumi, was not something that could be seen at any time. On the other hand, Kumi's expression turned slightly grave when the 5-clawed purple dragon appeared. While the group of dragons was anticipating the battle between Kumi and the 2 5-clawed divine dragons, Duan Ruffing, who had been temporarily thrown to the back of their minds, suddenly snorted coldly. This snort seemed to contain a powerful force, causing the group of dragons present on the scene to feel chills running down their spines. In the next moment, they saw a scene that they would never forget. As the middle-aged man who had come with Kumi casually raised his hand, the space around him began to tremble. It was as if the space around him was about to break apart. At the same time, along with 2 loud noises that sounded almost at the same time, the group of members of the dragon tribe were shocked to find that the 2 originally majestic 5-clawed divine dragons had been blasted down at this moment. It was as if they were being crushed by Mount Tai. When the 2 5-clawed divine dragons fell into the mountains together, it naturally caused a huge commotion. It was as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were shaking. In particular, the 5-clawed azure dragon was injured twice in the blink of an eye, and this time the injury was even more serious. It couldn't help but open its bloody mouth and spit out mouthfuls of blood. The situation of the other 5-clawed purple dragon was not much better. Why, you're the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion? When the 5-clawed purple dragon saw Kumi respectfully following behind the middle-aged man who had attacked them earlier, a hint of panic flashed through its eyes as it asked in a trembling voice. In her opinion, only the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion would be able to make Kumi follow him so respectfully and with such terrifying strength. Although she did not know why the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion would appear in front of the dragons, and it seemed like he did not come with good intentions. If you dare to jump around in front of me again, you'll die. Duan Rufing's expression remained calm. However, when he looked at the 5-clawed purple dragon, his eyes gleamed coldly like a blade. It caused the five-clawed purple dragon's heart to tremble. It did not dare to question his words at all. It stood there obediently and no longer dared to make any rash moves. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion? Upon hearing the five-clawed purple dragon's words, the five-clawed green dragon who was already severely injured was so frightened that his vision turned black. He almost fainted. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was a powerful existence on par with the clan leader of the dragons. Earlier he actually dared to display his slight skill in front of such an expert? He was so ashamed that he wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide in it. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. At the same time, horror dawned on the group of dragons as well. Even if they were a group of hotheads who rarely ventured out, they might not know who Kumi was, nor did they know who the current mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was. However, all of them knew about the Azure Cloud Mansion. It was an extremely powerful force that was on par with the Dragon Clan. For a colossal force like the Azure Cloud Mansion, the mansion master was, naturally, not inferior to the clan leader of the dragons. When the group of dragons thought about how they were facing a powerful existence whose force was not inferior to their clan leader, they felt their legs go weak. Some of the four-clawed divine dragons who were clamoring earlier also shut their mouths obediently. What a joke. The person in front of them was the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Even if they were killed, the dragons might not be able to avenge them at all. The moment Duan Ruffing made his move, the two five-clawed divine dragons immediately became obedient, let alone the other dragons. Just like that, Duan Ruffing and Kumi continued to make their way to the dragon's lair. There's such a huge commotion here. Why isn't the clan leader here yet? It's not only the clan leader. Elder Shui and the other few five-clawed divine dragon elders aren't here as well. The group of dragons began to feel restless. All of them felt uneasy. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion did not come with good intentions. However, the Dragon Clan's clan leader and the other five-clawed divine dragon elders were nowhere to be seen. There's no need to panic. The reason the clan leader and the few elders aren't here must be because they're busy with something. They'll definitely come. When Qin Yen, the five-clawed green dragon who had transformed back into his human form, saw Duan Ruffing and Kumi's disappearing silhouettes, he comforted them. Although the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion is powerful, there's no need for the clan leader to fear him with his strength alone. Zijing, the five-clawed purple dragon, had also transformed back into her human form. The old lady appeared again and said in a hoarse voice. After the two five-clawed divine dragon elders comforted them, the group of dragons finally calmed down. Found him. At the same time, Kumi, who was searching with his divine consciousness, finally found Diju's whereabouts. When he found Diju, he was in closed-door cultivation. It was because Diju was in closed-door cultivation. Otherwise, it was impossible for him not to know about the commotion outside. Poor Diju. He was at a critical juncture in his closed-door cultivation when he was interrupted by Kumi, who barged in without warning. Although he was a five-clawed golden dragon, the strongest five-clawed divine dragon, and a member of the imperial family, he had not fully matured yet. His strength was only on par with Qin Yen, the five-clawed green dragon, who was the weakest five-clawed divine dragon among the group of five-clawed divine dragon elders. Naturally, he was not a match for Kumi. He did not even have the ability to resist. Senior Kumi, what are you doing? Diju was, naturally, enraged when he was awakened and interrupted from his cultivation. However, when he saw that the person who interrupted his cultivation was Kumi, he immediately suppressed the anger in his heart and asked in a deep voice, "Don't you know what you've done?" Kumi smirked. With a raise of his hand, he gave Diju a slap. The slap stunned Diju. Kumi. As a member of the imperial family of dragons, Diju had pride and dignity that far surpassed the other five-clawed divine dragons. For a moment he seemed to have forgotten that Kumi was more powerful than him. He completely erupted and even transformed into his true form as a five-clawed golden dragon. However, with his current strength, how could he be a match for Kumi? With just a flip of his palm, Kumi suppressed him. After forcing him to transform back into his human form, he lifted him up in front of Duan Ruffing as though he was carrying a dead dog. During this process, Diju, who was powerless to resist, widened his eyes as though he would explode at any moment. This was the first time in his life that he had suffered such humiliation. He secretly swore that he would not be a dragon if he did not kill Kumi. "You're Diju?" Duan Ruffing asked nonchalantly as he looked at Diju, who looked like a dead dog in Kumi's hand. "Who are you?" After Diju was suppressed by Kumi, he had temporarily suppressed his anger. However, when he heard someone questioning him, he immediately asked in a cold voice. It was as though he was venting the anger he had suppressed in his heart on Duan Ruffing. Slap. The moment Diju's words left his mouth, it was as though a fuse had been lit. Diju, who revered Duan Ruffing like a god, raised his hand and gave him another slap. Diju, you're really bold. How dare you act so presumptuously in front of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion? I think you really don't want to live anymore. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion? After being humiliated by Kumi again, Diju, who was about to fight with his life, was completely stunned when he heard Kumi's words. The mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was a powerful existence who was on par with the clan leader of the dragons. Let alone the current him, even if he had fully grown in the future, he might not be a match for the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Most importantly, he had also heard about the deeds of the current mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. He knew the current mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was so powerful that he was even more powerful than the previous mansion masters of Azure Cloud Mansion. It was said that the current mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was not even 100 years old yet. Naturally, Diju knew very well what it meant to possess a strength that was on par with the clan leader of the dragons, even though he was not even 100 years old yet. Lord Mansion Master, why you're looking for me? Diju took a deep breath and managed to sort out his thoughts before he calmed down temporarily. When Diju saw the cold gleam in the eyes of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, a chill rose in his heart. At the same time, he faintly realized the reason Kumi had treated him like that earlier was most likely because of the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. However, he found it strange. He had never offended the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, but why did the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion look at him as though he was an enemy? Lord Mansion Master, is there any misunderstanding between us? When Diju saw Duan Ruffing keeping quiet, he began to panic instead. He was not afraid of Kumi at all. When he had fully grown in the future, he was confident he would be able to suppress and kill Kumi. As the saying went, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. However, he had no confidence in defeating the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion at all. Misunderstanding? Duan Ruffing smiled coldly. You almost killed my son. Do you think there's a misunderstanding between us? Boom. Chapter 1577. Duan Ruffing's words were like a bolt from the blue to Diju. However, after being struck by the bolt from the blue, he immediately regained his senses. He smiled wryly at Duan Ruffing and said, Lord Mansion Master, is there a misunderstanding? I haven't even seen your son before, so how could I have made a move on him and almost killed him? At this moment, Diju's heart was filled with grievance. He was so wrong that he felt like a little girl whose bottom had been touched. The middle-aged man before him was the mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion that was on par with the dragons. His strength was not inferior to the clan leader of the dragons. Even if he was given 100 guts, he would not dare to offend such a person. Looks like you won't give up until all hope is gone. Duan Ruffing sneered. He was too lazy to explain anything. However, the gleam in his eyes became even sharper. Diju, open your ears and listen carefully. Duan Lingtian is the young mansion master of our Azure Cloud Mansion. Kumi said in a deep voice as killing intent filled his eyes. Duan Lingtian. When Kumi's words entered Diju's ears, it was like a huge rock that was smashed into the calm water, causing a huge splash. It shocked Diju so much that he was stunned. Naturally, he was not unfamiliar with the name Duan Lingtian. When he recalled the loss he suffered in the hands of Duan Lingtian, his anger did not diminish at all. He could not wait to drag Duan Lingtian out and grind his bones into dust. Apart from that, he also suspected that his son had died in the hands of Duan Lingtian. Due to this reason, he had always treated Duan Lingtian as his #1 enemy. From the beginning until the end, he didn't take Duan Lingtian seriously at all. In his eyes, Duan Lingtian was a cunning kid, and if it wasn't for his carelessness that day, he wouldn't have fallen into Duan Lingtian's trap. That experience was a humiliation to him. He had to use Duan Lingtian's blood to wash away this humiliation. Kulao, did you make a mistake? Your Azure Cloud Mansion is a powerful force that's comparable to the dragons in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, that Duan Lingtian is just a brat from the mortal continent. It's impossible for him to be related to your Azure Cloud Mansion. After taking a deep breath, Diju said with a fluke heart. Diju, I'm afraid you still don't know. Not only is my young mansion master from the mortal continent, but my mansion master is also from the mortal continent. Upon hearing Diju's words, Kumi could not help but sneer. Kumi's words completely crushed the last bit of hope in Diju's heart. It caused Diju's expression to change drastically as a horrified expression appeared on his face. The Duan Lingtian whom he hated to the core was actually the young mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. How was this possible? Even until now, Diju still found it hard to believe even though the matter was almost confirmed. You almost killed my son. If I don't do anything about it, I don't deserve to be a father. Duan Ruffing glanced at Diju indifferently. His tone was calm but it was filled with a terrifying coldness. However, I won't bully you. I'll suppress my cultivation base to the same level as yours. If you can withstand 10 of my moves, I won't kill you. Duan Rufing's words were filled with confidence. Suppress his cultivation base to the same level? 10 moves? Diju, who thought he was going to be doomed, suddenly brightened up when he heard Duan Rufing's words. In his opinion, he was 100% confident he would win against a human martial cultivator with the same level as him. Unfortunately, imagination was beautiful but reality was cruel. Duan Ruffing was not someone an ordinary human martial cultivator could compare to. Even though Diju had transformed into his true form, the five-clawed golden dragon, right from the beginning, he could only barely withstand Duan Rufing's 8th move. When Duan Rufing's 9th move landed, Diju was also heavily injured with ease. The originally majestic five-clawed golden dragon had also become extremely wretched at this moment like a big loach. Impossible. Diju, who was heavily injured by Duan Ruffing, also found it hard to accept this reality. He was certain Duan Ruffing had indeed suppressed his cultivation base to the same level as him. Even so, he still felt like his hands and feet were tied in front of Duan Ruffing. He could not fully unleash his attack. Or rather, he could not unleash his attack at all. In his eyes, Duan Ruffing was like a mountain, a towering mountain that was difficult to surpass. Each and every one of Duan Ruffing's moves seemed to be able to move mountains and overturn seas, giving him great pressure. This pressure did not only come from the outside, but it also came from his heart, causing him to be physically and mentally exhausted. He was on the verge of breaking down. At this moment he finally realized how terrifying this mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was. This is after he suppressed his cultivation base to the same level as me. If he didn't suppress his cultivation base, how terrifying would his strength be? Even the clan leader might not be so strong, right? At this moment, Diju was completely shocked by the strength Duan Ruffing had displayed. He had even forgotten what Duan Ruffing had said to him earlier. However, when Duan Ruffing stopped and stood still with killing intent in his eyes, Diju jolted and finally regained his senses. Horror dawned on his face immediately. Mansion Master Duan, I admit that I almost killed Duan Lingtian. However, the reason I wanted to kill him is because he played a trick on me. Moreover, it's very likely that he killed my son. At this moment of life and death, Diju had no choice but to throw caution to the wind as he roared, Mansion Master Duan's son is your son, but my son is not my son? He killed my son, so don't tell me I shouldn't seek revenge? Where's the fairness in this? Fairness? Upon hearing Diju's words, Duan Ruffing could not help but sneer. Diju, I'm afraid my age is not even a fraction of yours. Since ancient times, the Tao Martial Saint Land has always valued the strong. In front of a powerful force, there's no fairness at all. It's impossible that you don't know about this, right? If you really want to talk about fairness, then when you killed the people from my son's sect, did you hear them talk about fairness? If you really want to talk about fairness, then let me tell you. I Duan Ruffing am fairness. It was rare for Duan Ruffing to speak so much. Perhaps it was because he was happy that Diju was about to die, or perhaps it was because of some other reason. All in all, the moment his words left his mouth, the aura on his body had completely changed. The moment his aura changed, the surrounding space began to tremble as though the end of the world had arrived. The terrifying aura on Duan Rufing's body rose up in just a blink of an eye and transformed into a billowing black flame as though it was going to burn the sky. Whoosh! As the billowing black flame soared up, half of the sky was shrouded by the black flame. Whether it was Duan Ruffing himself, Kumi who was standing behind him, or even Diju who was standing in front of Duan Ruffing, all of them were drowned by the black flame. When the black flame soared up, a destructive aura spread out wherever it passed. Even the members of the dragons who were standing far away could clearly sense the destructive aura. At once, some of the members of the dragons with a lower cultivation base had a drastic change of expression. They were bleeding from all 7 of their orifices. It was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. Moreover, they were still far away. Diju, who was in the center of the black flame, undoubtedly had to bear the greatest pressure. In Kumi's opinion, Diju would definitely die if the mansion master made his move. However, Duan Ruffing did not have any joy from killing Diju. He frowned and said coldly, "Dishan, you've finally come out." Dishan. Upon hearing his mansion master's words, Kumi's heart jolted. Naturally, he was not unfamiliar with the name Dishan. This was the name of the current clan leader of the dragons. If he were to ask who he feared the most among the dragons, it would undoubtedly be Dishan. As the clan leader of the dragons, Dishan was someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with his mansion master. He was not someone he could go against at all. As the black flame in the air dispersed, it was as though the night had turned into day in an instant. Diju, who was supposed to be killed by Duan Ruffing, was now shrouded in a layer of golden light shield. Around the golden light shield, there seemed to be streams of solidified golden light flowing continuously like little golden dragons. Within the huge golden light shield, apart from Diju, who was extremely pale, there was also an old man with a sturdy body. The old man wore a long golden robe. As he stood there, it was as though he had merged with heaven and earth. He gave off an immense pressure. Naturally, this pressure was ignored by Duan Ruffing. However, Kumi could not ignore it. His expression was solemn. It was obvious that he was trying to resist the pressure on purpose. This old man was none other than the current clan leader of the dragons, Dishan. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, 5 figures, including the 5-clawed green dragon, Qin Yan, and the 5-clawed purple dragon, Zi Jing, who were easily suppressed by Duan Ruffing earlier, appeared behind Dishan at the same time. They surrounded Diju like stars surrounding the moon. Among the 5 figures, apart from Qin Yan and Zi Jing, there was also Shui Chan and 2 other old men. Just by sensing the aura emitted from the 2 old men, one could tell that even if their strength was not as strong as Shui Chan, it was not weaker than Zi Jing. They were 2 of the other 3 5-clawed divine dragon elders in the dragon clan. Among the dragons there were only 9 5-clawed divine dragons. In this generation, due to the appearance of the 5-clawed devil dragon, Di Yong, he occupied one of the spots. Due to this reason, there were only 8 5-clawed divine dragons left. At this moment, apart from one of the 5-clawed divine dragons who happened to be absent, the remaining 8 5-clawed divine dragons were led by clan leader Dishan. All of them were glaring at Duan Ruffing fiercely. However, even in the face of 7 5-clawed divine dragons, Duan Ruffing's expression remained unchanged. It was as though he was not facing 7 5-clawed divine dragons but 7 ordinary people instead. Mansion Master Duan, it's one thing for you to barge into the territory of the dragons, but you actually want to kill the next clan leader of the dragons? Do you really think there's no one in the dragon clan who can stop you? One of the 2 5-clawed divine dragon elders who did not appear earlier took a step forward and stared at Duan Lingtian coldly as he asked in a deep voice. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our mansion master in such a tone? Chapter 1578. Kumi, this is the dragon's territory, not the Azure Cloud Mansion. The old man whose face had turned red due to Kumi's words shouted in a deep voice as his eyes gleamed coldly. Stand down. Just as Kumi was about to say something, Dishan opened his mouth and calmly said to the old man. Although the old man was a 5-clawed divine dragon elder, he did not dare to cross the line in front of Dishan, the clan leader of the dragons. However, his eyes were still gleaming coldly when he looked at Kumi. What? You want to fight me? When Kumi saw the coldness in the old man's eyes, he smiled mockingly and said, It's not that I'm looking down on you, but there are only 3 people among the dragons that I'm afraid of. However, you're not one of them. When the old man heard this, his face turned red, but he was rendered speechless. He could not deny this. Although he was glaring at Kumi, he knew very well that he was not a match for Kumi. Among the dragons, there were only 2 people who could defeat Kumi, while one of them could fight him to a draw. The rest of them, including him, were not a match for Kumi. When Kumi saw the old man no longer dared to say anything, he also retreated behind Duan Ruffing. Mansion Master Duan, how did Diju offend you? Dishan asked calmly as he looked at Duan Ruffing. It was as though he was not affected by the fact that Diju was almost killed. Dishan, what would you do if someone almost killed your son? Duan Ruffing sneered as he glanced at Dishan nonchalantly. Huh. When Dishan heard Duan Ruffing's words, he could not help but frown. He had just arrived, so he did not know the ins and outs of this matter. At once, he could not help but look at Diju. His son is Duan Lingtian. Diju, who was lucky enough to survive, looked much better now. When he saw clan leader Dishan looking at him, he immediately sent a voice transmission to clear his doubts. His tone was filled with bitterness and helplessness. Although he did not let go of his hatred for Duan Lingtian just because he knew Duan Lingtian's father was the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, he knew he could only admit defeat at this moment. He was not a match for the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion at all. If he fought back blindly, he would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Duan Lingtian? Upon hearing Diju's words, Di Shan could not help but frown. Naturally, he was not unfamiliar with this name. This was because this was the person Diju had asked him to look for. This was also the person who had killed Diju's son. It did not cross his mind that the brat from the mortal continent whom Diju had mentioned was actually the son of Duan Ruffing, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Although Duan Ruffing, the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, was not even a fraction of his age, he knew how terrifying this mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion was. The previous mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion, who was not much weaker than him, was said to have died in the hands of Duan Ruffing. It was precisely because of this that Duan Ruffing was able to become the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion. Although he had not fought with Duan Ruffing before, he knew he might not be able to win even if he fought with Duan Ruffing. Di Shan, as long as he dies today, I'll leave immediately, Duan Ruffing said nonchalantly. Based on his tone, it was as though there was no room for negotiation. Upon hearing Duan Ruffing's words, horror dawned on Xue Chan and the other five-clawed divine dragons. In the end, Xue Chan stepped forward and asked in a deep voice, Mansion Master Duan, may I know how Diju offended you that you want to kill him? Xue Chan, I advise you to stay out of this matter. When Kumi saw Duan Ruffing had no intention of replying to Xue Chan, he said coldly, even if Diju from the dragons dies in the hands of Lord Mansion Master, he only has himself to blame. Do you know he almost killed my young Mansion Master? Xiao Fuzhu is Lord Mansion Master's only son. What? The moment Kumi's words left his mouth, apart from Diju and Di Shan who already knew about this matter, horror dawned on the five-clawed divine dragon elders, including Xue Chan. At once, their eyes landed on Diju in unison. Diju, is this true? Xue Chan asked in a deep voice. Seeing that Diju did not deny it, the few five-clawed divine dragon elders' faces turned grave immediately. They secretly cursed Diju for being reckless and for provoking such a powerful enemy for the dragons. Although they felt that Diju was a sinner, this was the dragons' territory after all. They were the five-clawed divine dragons' elders. Naturally, they would put the interests of the dragons first. They would not fight among themselves in front of outsiders. Kumi, is there a misunderstanding? Xue Chan asked in a deep voice as he looked at Kumi. Misunderstanding? Kumi smirked. If there's a misunderstanding, it's Diju from the dragons who has misunderstood my young mansion master, right? Putting aside the fact that my young mansion master might not have killed his son, even if he did, it seems like he's helping you dragons get rid of the evil, right? Could it be that you dragons really want that five-clawed devil dragon to grow? Five-clawed devil dragon. The moment Kumi's words left his mouth, horror dawned on Diju's face. He did not expect Kumi would take the initiative to bring this up. A five-clawed devil dragon was a taboo among the dragons. At that time his son, the five-clawed devil dragon Di Yong, should have been executed. However, he had used a scheme to deceive everyone and spared Di Yong's life. Although he had spared Di Yong's life, he did not dare to let Di Yong stay in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Therefore he had sent Di Yong to Half Moon Island that was near Cloud Continent on the Mortal Continent. He was the only one who knew about this. Although many people in the clan suspected that his son, Di Yong, was still alive, they did not have any evidence. Moreover, they could not find Di Yong at all. Due to this reason they could not do anything to him. Now that Kumi had revealed this matter, Diju immediately had a bad premonition in his heart. The clan leader of the dragons, Di Shan, stared at Kumi. His calm eyes flashed coldly at this moment. It was apparent he was displeased with Kumi for revealing the five-clawed devil dragon. What? Don't all of you know that Diju's son, the five-clawed devil dragon, has only died a few years ago? However, Kumi, who had Duan Ruffing as his backing, was not afraid of Di Shan at all. He sneered at the group of five-clawed divine dragons and said, I must say that all of you dragons are very lucky. Although that five-clawed devil dragon survived, he still died in the end. Otherwise, when he grew up, all of you would have been doomed. All of you shouldn't have forgotten the dragon's ancestral rule, right? The dragon's ancestral rule was to kill any five-clawed devil dragon as soon as they discovered it to prevent future trouble. Diju, your son is actually still alive. Zijing looked at Diju with a grave expression on her face. The other few five-clawed divine dragon elders had a grave expression on their faces as well. It seems like all of you don't know about this. Kumi shook his head and clicked his tongue as he said, then all of you probably don't know that the young man, Duan Lingtian, whom all of you dragons have been searching for, is most likely the savior of all dragons. At the same time, he's also the young mansion master of our Azure Cloud Mansion. Kumi's words were like a bomb that dropped on them. Recently, all of them knew that the dragons had been searching for someone called Duan Lingtian. However, all they knew was that the clan leader was the one who looked for that person and not Diju. At this moment, all of the five-clawed divine dragon elders, including Xue Chan, looked at Di Shan, the clan leader of their dragon clan. Their eyes were filled with confusion as though they wanted to get an answer from Di Shan. Di Shan nodded. Since things had already progressed to this stage, he knew it was useless for him to keep it a secret. Xue Chan and the others immediately had a grave expression on their faces. In the end, it was Diju who was stirring up trouble behind the scenes. There was a reason why the mansion master of Azure Cloud Mansion came to the dragons to kill Diju. In this matter, their dragon clan was really not in the right. While Duan Ruffing was confronting the 7 five-clawed divine dragons, the clan leader of the Azure Cloud Mansion suddenly changed his mind. Chapter 1579. At this moment, it had been almost half a month since the interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan, issued a challenge to Lady Feng, the Drift Blaze sect's disciple. During this half a month, word of the challenge had spread among the Drift Blaze sect's disciples. Although it did not take long, almost half of the people in Windfall Nation had received the news. For a time, the challenge had become a grand event that half of the people in Windfall Nation paid attention to. Moreover, many people from various forces had sent their invitation cards to the Drift Blaze sect so they could watch the battle before the day of the challenge. One of the two parties of the duel was Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect. As long as one was a citizen of Windfall Nation, almost everyone knew about her. Lady Feng had risen to fame a year ago. She had entered the heaven ranking a year ago and had risen to fame ever since. If it was said that Lady Feng was not very famous at that time, then half a year later, Lady Feng was completely known by the people in Windfall Nation. She even had a certain degree of fame in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion. This was because half a year after Lady Feng had entered the bottom of the heaven ranking, she had made her move again and defeated the person who was ranked 23rd on the heaven ranking. Currently, half a year had passed since Lady Feng entered the 23rd place on the heaven ranking. Based on Lady Feng's improvement in the past half a year, most people concluded that she had the strength to enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking. Naturally, if one wanted to enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking, one would have to leave Windfall Nation first. This was because none of the powerhouses at the peak of the Saint Rudiment stage who were ranked in the top 10 of the heaven ranking were from Windfall Nation. As for the other person in the challenge, not many people knew about the interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan. Nobody had even heard of such a person in Windfall Nation before this. In less than half a month, under the deliberate efforts of some people managed to find out about the interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan. Master Duan had appeared in Situ clan 2 months ago. As soon as he appeared, he had cured the strange illness of Situ Hang, the great young master of Situ clan. Before this, almost everyone thought that Situ Hang would definitely die. After all, even the grade 4 Saint Refinement Master in the Windfall Nation's imperial family was at a loss when it came to his illness. He even said that Situ Hang was not sick but had been bewitched by something unclean. Even the 4th grade Saint Refinement Master of the imperial family had sentenced Situ Hang to death. Almost no one thought that Situ Hang would survive. Mr. Duan appeared. Once he appeared, it only took him 1.5 months to pull Situ Hang back from the gates of hell. Situ Hang had recovered completely as if nothing had happened to him. Apart from that, they had also heard that Situ Hang, the great young master of Situ clan, would be accompanying the interim advisor, Master Duan, to challenge Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Who was this Master Duan? He could even cure a strange illness that a grade 4 Saint Refinement Master who specialized in medicine refinement Dao could not do anything about. Some of the more observant people even began to search for information about the interim advisor of Situ clan, Master Duan. However, they did not even manage to find out his name. All they knew was that everyone in Situ clan addressed him as Master Duan. Even the clan leader of Situ clan was no exception. It was as though this Master Duan had appeared out of thin air in Windfall Nation. Before this, they could not find any trace of him at all. At this moment, in the eyes of the people in Windfall Nation, Duan Lingtian, the interim advisor of Situ clan, was shrouded in mystery. Moreover, there were many people from the various forces who had specially sent invitations to the Drift Blaze sect to see the heaven ranking. Most of them wanted to see Duan Lingtian, the mysterious interim advisor of Situ clan. They wanted to know what kind of person he was. Among them, the forces that were not on good terms with Situ clan were the most active. They had been fighting openly and secretly with the Situ clan for many years, and they knew the Situ clan very well. Now that Mr. Duan had suddenly appeared, it made them feel extremely pressured. Naturally, this pressure did not come from Master Duan's strength. Challenging a heaven-ranking powerhouse was enough to prove that Master Duan was only a Saint Rudiment stage martial or Dao cultivator. He was not a threat to them at all. The pressure they felt was mostly due to the mystery that Mr. Duan had unknowingly revealed. After all, he had cured a strange illness that even a grade 4 Saint Refinement Master and a group of Saint stage powerhouses could not do anything about. This was not something an ordinary Saint Rudiment stage martial or Dao cultivator could do. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian had become famous in Windfall Nation before the battle between Duan Lingtian and Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect had even begun. Naturally, the reason he became famous was because he had cured Situ Hang. Previously, news of Situ Hang's strange illness had spread throughout the entire Windfall Nation. During that period of time, almost everyone knew about it. Many people even traveled thousands of miles to the capital in the hopes of obtaining the reward issued by the Situ clan. However, none of them succeeded. Even Duan Lingtian did not expect this when he first heard about it from Situ Hang. Master Duan, your name has spread like wildfire in Windfall Nation now. Even if you lose the battle with Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect, as long as you announce your name will sweep through the entire Windfall Nation like a hurricane. At that time, as long as your senior brother is in Windfall Nation, he'll definitely know that you're in our Situ clan. He'll come to Duan Lingtian immediately, Situ Hang told Duan Lingtian with a smile. What? Do you have so little confidence in me, young Master Hang? Upon hearing Situ Hang's words, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled as he asked mockingly. Upon hearing this, Situ Hang smiled awkwardly and quickly tried to salvage the situation. Of course not. I'm just saying one of the possibilities. Although he indeed felt it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to defeat Lady Feng from Drift Blaze sect, he did not dare to say anything in front of Duan Lingtian. He was afraid he would offend Duan Lingtian. However, he had underestimated Duan Lingtian's magnanimity. When he casually said those words earlier, Duan Lingtian had already guessed what he was thinking. It was just that he did not care about it at all. This was because Duan Lingtian knew very well that there were some things that others would not believe even if he had a glib tongue. The only way to convince others was to use practical actions to convince them. For this reason, after hearing Situ Hang's explanation, Duan Lingtian did not continue with this topic. Instead, he changed the topic. Young Master Hang, Situ Zhuo will be facing the wall for 3 months in another month. At that time, he'll leave the enforcement hall as well. He did not succeed this time, and we don't know what method he'll use to deal with you next time. What's your plan? When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Situ Hang and asked. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian mentioning Situ Zhuo, Situ Hang's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. Situ Zhuo was the culprit who almost caused his death previously. Due to certain reasons, he and his father did not want to fall out with Situ Hang's faction. For this reason, they decided to minimize the matter and end it with the death of the devil cultivator. However, in his heart, there was no way he would let this matter go. After all, he almost died. If he died, he could imagine the future of the Situ clan. It would definitely belong to Situ Zhuo. If Situ Zhuo became the patriarch of the Situ clan, with Situ Zhuo's ruthlessness, he did not even need to think to know what would happen to him and his father. It would definitely be extremely miserable. Master Duan, although I've heard about Situ Zhuo's deeds in the past, I didn't expect him to be so ruthless to me. I've suffered once and I won't suffer a second time. After taking a deep breath, Situ Hang spoke at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. His tone was so cold that it made people feel as though they had fallen into an ice cave. It's good that you know what you're doing. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. He had a good impression of Situ Hang. As for Situ Zhuo, he did not have a good impression of him at all. If there's anything I can help you with, you're welcome. Duan Lingtian said again. Thank you, Master Duan. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Situ Hang's eyes lit up immediately. He quickly bowed to express his gratitude as a junior. Although Duan Lingtian was perhaps 1 or 2 years younger than him, Duan Lingtian had a very high position in his heart. He did not treat Duan Lingtian as his peer. With our speed, we should be able to reach the Drift Blaze sect by this afternoon, right? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile as he looked at the scorching sun in the sky. Yes, we'll be able to reach by this afternoon. Situ Hang nodded. After we arrive, we'll rest in the Drift Blaze sect for a night first. Tomorrow we'll familiarize ourselves with the Drift Blaze sect's environment and walk around the Drift Blaze sect's estate as their guests. As for the battle between you and Lady Feng from the Drift Blaze sect, it's set for the day after tomorrow. Alright, I'll leave it to you. Duan Lingtian nodded. Although Situ Hang was not much older than him, he was still inferior to Situ Hang when it came to handling trivial matters. As the saying went, every profession has its own specialization. Perhaps this was what it meant. After leaving the Windfall Nation's capital and heading to the Drift Blaze sect, naturally Duan Lingtian, Situ Hang, and Situ Ho were not the only people in the group. There were 5 other people hiding in the dark as well. If it was not for the fact that Duan Lingtian had anti-tracking experience from his past life, perhaps he would not have noticed these 5 people. These 5 people were hiding in the dark like venomous snakes, ready to attack or even kill at any moment. 5 imminent Saint Stage powerhouses. Moreover, they must have cultivated some kind of secret tactic to conceal themselves. Apart from me, I'm afraid not many people below the Saint Stage would be able to notice them. After Duan Lingtian activated his divine eye, he could clearly sense the powerful aura that was faintly emitted from the 5 people who were hiding in the dark. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.